Have you ever been so desperate that a stranger's offer felt like salvation? Ethan Cole sat alone on Christmas night, humiliated and broken, watching yet another woman walk away the moment she learned he had a daughter. But when a composed stranger approached his table with an impossible proposal, a partnership instead of love, a contract instead of courtship, he faced a choice that would redefine everything he thought he knew about family, sacrifice, and what it truly means to stay. Watch until the end to see how one desperate decision became the foundation of something extraordinary. And drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The restaurant's ambient lighting, soft Edison bulbs wrapped in garland, candles flickering on white tablecloths, felt like a cruel mockery of warmth. Christmas music drifted through the dining room, all joy and bells and promises of togetherness, while Ethan Cole sat alone at a table set for two, staring at the empty chair across from him. Melissa had been gone for exactly 4 minutes. He could still see the precise moment her face changed. They'd been talking, nervous first date small talk, the kind where you're both trying too hard, and it had been going well. She'd laughed at his joke about the overly ambitious Christmas light display at his apartment complex. She'd seemed genuinely interested when he mentioned his work as a software developer. There had been a spark, maybe, something worth exploring. Then she'd asked about his weekends. They're pretty low-key, he'd said, smiling. My daughter and I usually do movie marathons, or we hit up the children's museum if the weather's nice. She's 7, so she's at that age where everything's an adventure, you know? The change was immediate. Her smile faltered. Her posture shifted backward, almost imperceptibly, but Ethan had learned to recognize the signs. He'd seen this exact choreography too many times. You have a daughter? Melissa's voice had gone carefully neutral. Yeah, Lily, she's amazing, smart, funny, kind. The best thing that ever happened to me. That's nice. She'd glanced at her phone, then back at him with an apologetic expression he'd come to know intimately. Listen, Ethan, I'm really sorry, but I just remembered I have this early thing tomorrow, and I should probably… It's fine. He'd cut her off, saving them both the indignity of the full excuse. I understand, but she'd kept going anyway, as if the script required completion. It's not you, really. I'm not ready for that kind of responsibility. Dating someone with kids is just really complicated, and I'm at a point in my life where I need to focus on, it's fine, he'd repeated, quieter this time. Merry Christmas. She'd left money for her untouched wine and disappeared into the night, leaving Ethan alone with 2 menus, 1 flickering candle, and the familiar weight of rejection settling into his chest like snow accumulating on frozen ground. Now he sat in the aftermath, debating whether to order something just to justify occupying the table, or whether to simply leave and add this to his growing collection of failed attempts at moving forward. The waiter had already passed by twice, sympathy evident in his careful avoidance of eye contact. Ethan pulled out his phone and opened his messages. The babysitter had sent a photo 20 minutes ago. Lily asleep on the couch, still in her Christmas pajamas, surrounded by the modest pile of presents they'd opened that morning. He'd done his best to make the day special despite his ex-wife's continued absence, despite the limited budget, despite everything. Lily had seemed happy, but he'd still felt compelled to try this. One more attempt at building something resembling a complete family for her. One more shot at not being alone. Excuse me. Ethan looked up to find a woman standing beside his table. She was perhaps 30, elegantly dressed in a charcoal wool coat over a deep green dress that suggested she'd come from somewhere more formal than this neighborhood restaurant. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple twist, and she carried herself with the kind of composed confidence that seemed foreign in this moment of his humiliation. I'm sorry to interrupt, she said, her voice low and surprisingly gentle, but I couldn't help noticing. Did your date just leave? Heat crept up Ethan's neck. Yeah, turns out single dads aren't exactly hot commodities in the dating world. He'd meant it as a deflection, a throwaway line to speed past this mortifying conversation. But the woman didn't laugh or offer empty sympathy. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, studying him with an intensity that made him suddenly self-conscious. May I sit? She asked. Ethan blinked. Sure? She lowered herself into the chair Melissa had abandoned, folding her hands on the table with the precision of someone conducting a business meeting. Up close, he could see she was beautiful in an understated way. Minimal makeup, no jewelry except small diamond studs. everything about her suggesting substance over flash. "My name is Adrienne Vale," she said, "and I have a proposition for you." Ethan's confusion must have shown on his face because she offered a small, almost apologetic smile. "That came out more dramatic than I intended," Adrienne continued. "Let me start over. I've been sitting 3 tables away for the past hour, celebrating Christmas dinner alone because I find the holiday somewhat depressing and didn't want to spend it in my empty apartment. I watched your entire date. I saw her face when you mentioned your daughter. I saw yours when she left." "Okay, so I'm being pitied by a stranger," Ethan said, unable to keep the edge from his voice. "That's somehow worse than being stood up." "I'm not here to pity you." Adrienne's tone remained even, matter of fact. "I'm here because I think we might be able to help each other." "Help each other how, exactly?" She leaned forward slightly, and Ethan noticed her eyes, gray-blue, clear, assessing. "I'm going to be very direct because I've found that's the most efficient way to communicate important things. I'm 32 years old. I'm the director of operations for a medical device company, which means I make a comfortable living. I own my home. I'm financially stable, and I cannot have biological children due to a medical condition I was diagnosed with at 24. Ethan opened his mouth, but she continued. "I've tried dating multiple times. Men hear that I can't have children, and they either immediately lose interest or they stick around hoping I'll change my mind about not wanting to pursue fertility treatments I've already decided against. I've tried being upfront about it, and I've tried waiting to mention it. Neither approach works. The result is always the same. I end up alone." "I'm sorry," Ethan said, and meant it. "But I'm not sure why you're telling me this." "Because you're experiencing the opposite problem," Adrienne said simply. "You have a child, which apparently makes you undateable to women who want the freedom to remain childless or to start families on their own terms. I can't have a child, which makes me undateable to men who want traditional family structures. We're both being rejected for circumstances we can't change." "Okay, so here's my proposition." Adrienne's gaze held steady on his. "What if we stop trying to find romantic love and instead approach this practically? You need a partner who won't run away because you have a daughter. I want to be part of a family, to help raise a child, to have that experience I thought I'd lost. We could build something together, not based on passion or attraction, but on mutual respect, shared goals, and practical compatibility." Ethan stared at her, certain he'd misheard. Are you seriously suggesting we enter into some kind of arranged relationship? We don't even know each other." "We don't," Adrienne agreed. "But people used to build marriages on far less. Shared values, compatible lifestyles, mutual benefit, and frankly, after watching modern dating destroy us both in different ways, I'm starting to think our grandparents had the right idea." "This is insane." "Maybe." She pulled a business card from her purse and placed it on the table between them. "Or maybe it's the sanest thing either of us could do. I'm not asking you to decide tonight. I'm not even asking you to like the idea. I'm simply offering an alternative to the cycle you're clearly stuck in." Ethan picked up the card. Adrienne Vale, Director of Operations, Meditech Solutions, a North Side address that suggested money. "Think about it," Adrienne said, rising from her chair with the same composed grace she'd shown sitting down. "If you're interested in at least discussing the possibility, call me. If not, I hope you find what you're looking for. Either way, I wish you and your daughter a genuine Merry Christmas." She walked away before Ethan could formulate a response, leaving him alone with her business card and a head full of questions he couldn't begin to organize. He sat there for another 10 minutes, turning the card over in his fingers, before finally paying his bill and heading home. The apartment was quiet when he let himself in. The babysitter, Mrs. Chen from 2 doors down, was dozing in the armchair, a book open on her lap. She startled awake as he entered. "Oh, Ethan, you're back. How was your evening?" "It was fine," he lied. "Thanks for staying late." "Of course, dear. Lily's been an angel, as always. She fell asleep around 9 watching that movie about the princess who saves herself. She made me promise to tell you the ending in case you missed it." Ethan smiled despite everything. That was pure Lily, always making sure everyone had the complete story. "I'll watch it with her tomorrow." After Mrs. Chen left, he checked on his daughter. She'd migrated from the couch to her bed at some point, still in her pajamas, her dark hair spread across her pillow like a fan, The nightlight cast soft shadows across her room. The bookshelves he'd built from kits, the modest desk where she did her homework, the walls decorated with her own artwork, and a few posters of scientists and astronauts. He'd tried to build her a world where she knew she could become anything, but he couldn't give her what she'd asked for 3 weeks ago, in a moment of heartbreaking honesty. They'd been making dinner together, her favorite, mac and cheese with the fancy shells, when she'd suddenly gone quiet. He'd learned to recognize those silences, the weight behind them. "Dad?" she'd said finally, not looking up from the cheese she was grating. "Yeah, sweetheart? How come you don't have a girlfriend?" The question had hit him unexpectedly. "I guess I just haven't found the right person yet." "Is it because of me?" He'd put down the pot he was holding and knelt beside her. "Lily, no. Why would you think that?" She'd shrugged, still focused on the cheese. "Emma at school said her mom doesn't date because having kids makes it too hard. She said nobody wants to deal with someone else's children." "Emma's mom is in a different situation," he'd said carefully. "And hey, look at me." Lily had finally met his eyes, and the vulnerability there had nearly broken him. "You're the best thing in my life," Ethan had told her. The absolute best. "If someone doesn't want to be around you, then they're not the right person for either of us. Okay?" She'd nodded, but he'd seen the doubt lingering. 7 years old and already learning that sometimes love came with conditions. Now, watching her sleep, Ethan pulled Adrienne's business card from his pocket and studied it in the nightlight's glow. What she'd suggested was crazy, absolutely crazy. You didn't build a relationship like you were hiring for a position. You didn't approach family like a business arrangement. Except people did, didn't they? Throughout history, throughout cultures. Marriages arranged for mutual benefit, partnerships built on compatibility rather than passion. And they often worked. He thought about Melissa's face when he'd mentioned Lily. He thought about Sarah before her, and Jennifer before her, and the half-dozen other women who'd found polite ways to exit when they realized his life came with a 7-year-old attachment. He thought about Lily asking if she was the reason he was alone. Ethan tucked the card back in his pocket and kissed his daughter's forehead. "Sweet dreams, Lil." Tomorrow, he'd throw the card away. Tomorrow, he'd go back to the apps and the setups and the slow grinding cycle of disappointment. Tomorrow. Basib. Tomorrow turned into 3 days, and the card stayed in his wallet. Ethan tried to focus on work, on the post-holiday cleanup, on getting Lily ready to go back to school after the break. But Adrienne's proposition kept surfacing in quiet moments, refusing to be dismissed. On December 28th, while Lily was at a playdate with her friend Sophie, Ethan finally pulled out his phone and stared at Adrienne's number. This was ridiculous. He was actually considering calling a stranger to discuss entering into some kind of transactional relationship. What would he even say? How did you start a conversation like that? His thumb hovered over the screen. The worst that could happen was she'd changed her mind, or he'd realized the whole thing was as insane as it sounded, and they'd part ways. No harm done. He dialed before he could change his mind. She answered on the second ring. "Adrienne Vale." "Hi, this is Ethan. From the restaurant? On Christmas?" A brief pause, then, "Ethan, I wasn't sure I'd hear from you." "I wasn't sure you'd hear from me either," he admitted. "But I've been thinking about what you said, and I don't know. I guess I'm curious. Maybe that's stupid." "It's not stupid." Her voice held a warmth he hadn't heard at the restaurant. "It's honest. Would you be open to meeting somewhere to talk through what this might actually look like?" Yeah, I think I would." "How about Saturday afternoon? There's a cafe on Elmwood. Quiet, good coffee, booths in the back where we can have privacy." "Saturday works. 2 o'clock? Perfect. And Ethan, I appreciate you calling. I know this isn't conventional." "That's one word for it," he said, and heard her laugh softly. "See you Saturday." After they hung up, Ethan sat with his phone in his hand, wondering what exactly he'd just set in motion. Part of him wanted to call back and cancel. The other part, the part that was tired of first dates that went nowhere and the growing certainty that he'd be alone forever, wanted to see where this impossibly strange path might lead. Saturday was 3 days away. He had 3 days to decide if he was brave enough to try something completely different. The cafe Adrienne had chosen was exactly as she'd described. quiet, warmly lit, with deep booths along the back wall that offered privacy from the main seating area. Ethan arrived 5 minutes early, ordered a black coffee he didn't particularly want, and claimed a corner booth. Adrienne arrived exactly on time, dressed casually in jeans and a navy sweater that somehow still managed to look polished. She ordered tea, Earl Grey, he noticed, and slid into the booth across from him. "Thank you for coming," she said. "Thanks for not thinking I'm completely crazy for showing up. We're both here, so I think the crazy is mutual." She wrapped her hands around her teacup. "I want to start by acknowledging how unusual this is. I'm not trying to minimize that. Unusual is putting it mildly." "Fair enough." Adrienne took a sip of her tea, seeming to gather her thoughts. "Let me tell you a bit more about myself, and then you can decide if you want to continue this conversation or politely excuse yourself." Ethan nodded, settling back against the booth. "I grew up in a very traditional, very wealthy family," Adrienne began. "My father is a surgeon, my mother comes from old money. I was expected to follow a specific path: top schools, prestigious career, marriage to someone from the right kind of family, children who would continue the legacy. I did the first two. I went to Northwestern, I built a successful career, but the marriage never happened, and the children became impossible." Her voice remained steady, but Ethan saw something tighten in her expression. "When I was diagnosed with endometriosis at 24, it was already advanced. I had surgery, I tried treatments, and eventually I had to accept that biological children weren't going to happen for me. I could pursue IVF, surrogacy, other options, and my doctors were very clear that paths existed. But I'd watched my mother turn pregnancy and child-rearing into a competitive sport, and I'd seen what that did to her, to me, to my siblings. I decided that if I was going to be a parent, it would be because I chose it, not because I fought nature to force it." "That must have been hard," Ethan said quietly. "It was. It is." Adrienne met his eyes. "I grieved it. I'm still grieving parts of it. But I've also made peace with the idea that family doesn't have to mean biology, which brings me to why I approached you." She leaned forward slightly. "I watched you at that restaurant, Ethan. I saw how you talked about your daughter, the love in your voice, the pride. I saw how you handled that woman's rejection with dignity, even though it clearly hurt. And I thought, here's someone who actually values what I want. Here's someone who already has a child, who already knows what that means, who wouldn't see my inability to give him biological children as a deficiency." "I wouldn't," Ethan said immediately. "For what it's worth, I wouldn't see it that way at all." "I know. I could tell." Adrienne's slight smile held relief. "So here's what I'm proposing, concretely. I'm suggesting we get to know each other with a specific goal in mind, to determine if we're compatible as partners and co-parents. Not roommates, not friends with benefits, but actual partners. People who build a life together, who share responsibilities, who create a stable home for your daughter." "Without romantic love," Ethan said. "Without starting from romantic love," Adrienne corrected. "I'm not saying we'd prevent it from developing. I'm saying we wouldn't base everything on it. We'd build on respect, compatibility, shared values. If affection grows from that foundation, wonderful. If not, we'd still have something solid." Ethan turned his coffee cup in his hands. "What would that actually look like? Day to day?" "That's what we'd figure out together. But hypothetically, we'd start by spending time together. Dinners, activities, conversations. We'd include your daughter gradually, let her get comfortable with me, see if we connect. If things progressed, we'd talk about timelines, living arrangements, financial contributions. I'd want to be an active parent to Lily, not just someone who lives in the house. That would mean school events, homework help, doctor's appointments, all of it. That's a lot to take on for someone else's kid." "I don't think of it as someone else's kid," Adrienne said firmly. "If we do this, she becomes my kid too. That's the whole point." Ethan studied her across the table, searching for doubt or uncertainty. He found neither. "What do your parents think about all this?" Something flickered across Adrienne's face. Annoyance, maybe frustration. "My parents think I should either pursue every available fertility option or marry someone from their social circle who won't care about children. They don't know about this conversation, and they don't need to. I'm 32 years old. I make my own choices." "Fair enough." Ethan took a breath. "Can I ask you something direct?" "Please." "Why me?" You could put out some kind of profile, find people actively looking for this kind of arrangement. Why approach a random guy who got stood up at a restaurant? Adrienne considered the question. Honestly? Because you were real. Everything about that moment was real. Your disappointment, your love for your daughter, even your embarrassment. You weren't performing or trying to impress anyone. And I've spent enough time around people who perform to know the difference. She paused. Also, I did some research after I gave you my card. Research? You have a LinkedIn profile. I looked you up. 5 years at a good tech company, steady career progression, no red flags on your social media. You volunteer with the Children's Museum's STEM program. You seem like exactly what you appeared to be, a good father trying to do right by his kid. You stalked me, Ethan said, but he was almost smiling. I did my due diligence, Adrienne corrected, which, if we pursue this, I'd encourage you to do as well. In fact, I'd insist on it. We should both go into this with eyes wide open. They talked for another hour, covering everything from schedules to values to expectations. Adrienne wanted to be an active parent. Ethan wanted someone who would genuinely care about Lily, not just tolerate her. They both valued education, independence, honesty. Neither wanted drama or games. So what happens now? Ethan asked finally. We take it slow, Adrienne said. We meet again without any pressure. We see if we actually like each other when we're not having intense philosophical conversations about unconventional relationships. We figure out if this is actually viable or just an interesting thought experiment. And when do we involve Lily? Not yet. Not until we're both sure this has potential. I won't let her get attached to someone who might disappear. That wouldn't be fair to her. The protectiveness in her voice made something ease in Ethan's chest. Okay, he said. Let's try it. One dinner, no pressure. See if we can hold a normal conversation. One dinner, Adrienne agreed. And Ethan, thank you for being open to this. I know it's strange. Strange is relative, he said. At this point, I'm willing to try something different. They scheduled dinner for the following Thursday, exchanged numbers properly this time, and parted ways with a handshake that felt both too formal and somehow appropriate. Driving home, Ethan wondered what he'd tell Mrs. Chen when she asked about his week, wondered how he'd explain this to anyone if it ever got to that point, wondered if he'd just made the best decision of his life or the most ridiculous one. Time, he supposed, would tell. Thursday's dinner was at a mid-range Italian place, neutral territory. They met at 7 after Lily was settled with Mrs. Chen for the evening. No business casual tonight, Ethan noted, taking in Adrienne's jeans and simple blouse. I figured we should see if we can be normal people, she said. How was your day? And just like that, they slipped into conversation. They talked about work. Her current project involved streamlining supply chains for cardiac devices. His team was debugging a new client management system. They talked about books and discovered they both loved mystery novels but disagreed on whether the genre needed happy endings. They argued good-naturedly about whether Chicago or New York had better pizza, both knowing neither argument would change the other's mind. It was easy. Surprisingly, remarkably easy. Tell me about Lily, Adrienne said over dessert. Not the proud father version, the real version. What's she actually like? Ethan smiled. She's smart, scary smart sometimes. She reads at a 4th grade level and she's only in 2nd. She asks questions that I need to Google to answer properly. Last week she wanted to know why the sky is blue, and when I gave her the simple answer, she wanted to know about wavelengths and atmospheric scattering. Sounds like she keeps you on your toes. Constantly. But she's also… He paused, trying to find the right words. She's kind. Really genuinely kind. She notices when people are sad or left out. She shares everything, even things she really wants to keep for herself. And she's funny, this dry, observational humor that catches me off guard. What does she struggle with? The question surprised him. Most people only wanted to hear the good parts. She worries a lot, Ethan admitted. About me, mostly. Whether I'm happy, whether I'm lonely, whether she's too much trouble. She's 7, and she's already trying to make herself smaller so I'll have an easier life. I hate that she thinks that way. Where's her mother? Brooklyn. Last I heard. She left when Lily was 2, said motherhood wasn't what she thought it would be. She sends a card on birthdays sometimes. No calls, no visits. Lily knows who she is, but she doesn't really remember her. I'm sorry. Don't be. We're better off. It hurt at the time, but Amanda leaving was probably the best thing she could have done. Better than staying and resenting us. Adrienne nodded slowly. Still, that's a lot for a child to process. Yeah. Ethan met her eyes. Which is why I need to be really careful about who I bring into her life. She's already been left once. I won't let it happen again. I understand, and I promise you, if we do this, if we really do this, I'm not someone who leaves when things get hard. That's not who I am. What makes you so sure? Because I've had a lot of opportunities to take easy paths, Adrienne said. I could have let my family dictate my life. I could have pursued treatments I didn't want. I could have settled for someone appropriate instead of someone right. But I didn't. I don't quit just because things don't look the way I expected them to. They lingered over coffee, neither quite ready for the evening to end. When they finally left, Ethan walked Adrienne to her car. This was nice, she said. Normal nice, not just interesting conversation nice. It was, Ethan agreed. Want to do it again? I do, but next time I'd like to do something active, not just dinner and talking. Like what? Surprise me. You pick the activity. Ethan thought for a moment. How do you feel about ice skating? I haven't been since college, but I'm game. Saturday afternoon, there's an outdoor rink downtown. Perfect. They scheduled it before parting ways, and Ethan drove home feeling something he hadn't felt in months. Hopeful. Ice skating turned into a museum visit, which turned into a weekend morning at a farmer's market. January slid into February, and Ethan and Adrienne settled into a rhythm of regular meetings, each one revealing new layers of compatibility. She was early to everything, which drove him crazy at first until he adjusted. He had a tendency to get lost in technical explanations, which she found endearing rather than boring. She could cook, but rarely bothered when just feeding herself. He loved cooking, but had fallen into rotation of 5 kid-friendly meals. Together, they started experimenting with new recipes, trading off whose kitchen they used. They hadn't touched beyond casual, friendly gestures, a hand on an arm, a brief hug goodbye. It felt like they were building something from the ground up, and rushing the physical aspect would undermine the foundation. When do I meet her? Adrienne asked one evening in mid-February. They were in her living room, a surprisingly cozy space filled with bookshelves and soft furniture that contradicted the severe corporate image he'd initially imagined. Meet who? Your daughter, Lily. We've been doing this for 6 weeks. If this is going to be real, I need to actually meet the person who's at the center of it. Ethan felt his stomach clench. Are you sure you're ready for that? Are you? He considered it honestly. They'd reached a point where he could imagine this working, not just in theory, but in practice. Adrienne was steady, thoughtful, reliable. She showed up when she said she would. She remembered details from previous conversations. She pushed back when she disagreed with him, but respectfully, with room for discussion. And more than that, he'd started to care about her opinion, started to miss her on days they didn't see each other, started to think about her as part of his future, not just a possibility. Yeah, he said finally. I think I am. How do you want to do it? Casual? Low pressure? Maybe we all go to the Children's Museum? Lily loves it there, and it's public enough that she won't feel overwhelmed. That sounds perfect. They scheduled it for the following Sunday, and Ethan spent the intervening week trying to figure out how to explain Adrienne to his daughter without making it weird. He settled on simple honesty. Lily, I've been spending time with someone new, he said Friday night over dinner. Her name is Adrienne, and she'd like to meet you. I thought we could all go to the museum together on Sunday. Lily looked up from her spaghetti, instantly alert. Like a date? Kind of. She's someone who might become important to both of us, but I wanted you to meet her first. See what you think. Is she nice? I think she's very nice. But what matters is what you think. Lily considered this. Okay, but if she's mean to you, I'm going to tell her to leave. Ethan bit back a smile. Deal. Sunday arrived cold and bright. Ethan picked up Adrienne at 10, and he could see she was nervous, a first for her. You okay? He asked as she slid into the car. I really want her to like me, Adrienne admitted. Is that silly? It's not silly. But try to relax. She's 7. Just be yourself. Well, what if myself isn't enough? He reached over and squeezed her hand briefly. It will be. When they pulled up to his apartment, Lily was waiting by the window. She disappeared, then reappeared at the door as they climbed the stairs, dressed in her favorite purple sweatshirt and jeans, her hair in the braids she'd insisted on doing herself. "Hi," she said shyly, when Adrienne reached the landing. "Hi, Lily. It's so nice to finally meet you. Your dad talks about you constantly." "He does?" Lily glanced at Ethan. "All the time," Adrienne confirmed. "Apparently you're reading at a 4th grade level? 4th or 5th, depending on the book." Lily's shyness began to recede. "Do you like reading?" "I love it. What are you reading right now?" And just like that, they were off, discussing Lily's current book about a girl who solved mysteries with her dog. By the time they got to the museum, Lily was holding Adrienne's hand as naturally as she held Ethan's. He watched them together as they moved through the exhibits, Adrienne crouching to examine things at Lily's height, asking genuine questions, listening carefully to the answers. In the physics section, when Lily wanted to try every hands-on demonstration, Adrienne matched her enthusiasm, the two of them building elaborate marble runs and testing different bridge designs. At the space exhibit, Lily explained the planets with authority, and Adrienne asked about her favorites. "I like Saturn because of the rings," Lily said, "but I think I'd want to visit Jupiter because it's the biggest and probably has the best view." "Good reasoning," Adrienne said seriously. "I'd pick Mars because it seems more manageable. Jupiter seems intimidating." Lily giggled. "You can't actually visit them. They're too far away." "Not yet," Adrienne countered. "But maybe by the time you're grown up, we'll have figured it out." "You think so?" "I think if anyone's going to figure it out, it'll be kids like you who ask questions and actually think about the answers." Lily beamed. They had lunch in the museum cafe, grilled cheese for Lily, salads for the adults, and the conversation flowed easily. Lily told Adrienne about school, about her friends, about the science fair project she was planning. Adrienne listened like everything Lily said mattered, asked follow-up questions, shared relevant stories from her own life. On the drive home, Lily fell asleep in the back seat, worn out from the excitement. "Well?" Ethan asked quietly. "She's wonderful," Adrienne said, and he heard the emotion in her voice. "Absolutely wonderful, smart and curious and kind, just like you said." "She liked you too, I could tell." "How?" "She held your hand. She doesn't do that with people she doesn't trust." Adrienne looked back at Lily's sleeping form. "This is real now, isn't it? Not theoretical." "Yeah," Ethan said. "I think it is." That night, after tucking Lily in, he found a text from Adrienne. "Thank you for trusting me with her. I meant what I said. She's wonderful. And this matters to me. All of it matters." He wrote back, "It matters to me too. More than I expected." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "Maybe we should talk about next steps. What this actually becomes." "Tomorrow?" "Tomorrow." Ethan set down his phone and went to check on Lily one more time. She was already asleep, her arm wrapped around the stuffed elephant she'd had since she was a baby. "I think I found someone good," he whispered. "Someone who wants to stay." He hoped he was right. The conversation about next steps happened over coffee at Adrienne's place the following evening, after Lily was asleep and Mrs. Chen had settled in with her knitting and a British mystery series she was binge-watching. Adrienne's apartment looked different in the evening light, softer, more lived in. She'd changed out of her work clothes into comfortable pants and an oversized sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She poured them both coffee and settled onto the opposite end of her couch, tucking her feet beneath her. "So," she said, "we should probably be honest about where we are." Ethan cradled his mug, gathering his thoughts. "I've been thinking about that, about what this is becoming. And I like you," he said simply. "Not just as a theoretical partner or co-parent. I actually like spending time with you. I look forward to seeing you. Yesterday at the museum, watching you with Lily, I kept thinking that this felt right. Not forced or strange, just right." Adrienne's expression softened. "I feel the same way. When I first approached you, I thought this would be practical, a logical arrangement that served both our needs. But it's become more than that. I care about you, Ethan, about both of you. So where does that leave us? She took a breath. I think it leaves us at a decision point. We can keep dating casually, getting to know each other, taking our time. Or we can acknowledge that we're building towards something specific and start making concrete plans. You mean like living together? Marriage? Eventually, yes. But first, I think we need to establish what we actually want this to look like. Not just in theory, but in practice. Ethan set down his coffee. Okay, what do you want it to look like? Adrienne considered the question carefully. I want to be a real parent to Lily, not a babysitter or a dad's girlfriend who hangs around sometimes. I want to be involved in her life, school, activities, decisions. I want her to know she can count on me. That's a lot of responsibility. I know, and I'm ready for it. She met his eyes. I also want us to be partners, actual partners who share responsibilities, make decisions together, support each other. I don't want to be a guest in your life or you in mine. I want us to build something new together. What about the romantic part? Ethan asked. We've been careful about that. We have, and I think that's been good. We've built a foundation first, but I'm not opposed to seeing where that goes naturally. I just don't want to force it or base everything on it. Fair enough. Ethan ran his hand through his hair. Can I be honest about something that worries me? Please. Your family. You said they come from money, that they have expectations. Eventually, they're going to find out about us. About me and Lily. And I'm pretty sure a software developer with a 7-year-old daughter isn't what they had in mind for you. Adrienne's jaw tightened slightly. My family doesn't get to dictate my life. They gave up that right when they made it clear my value was tied to producing the next generation of their legacy. That doesn't mean they won't make things difficult. Probably not. My mother in particular can be, she paused, searching for the right word, challenging, but I'm prepared to handle them. The question is whether you're prepared for what that might mean. What do you think it'll mean? Judgment, condescension, questions about your background, your finances, your intentions. They'll want to know why I'm settling for... She stopped herself. For someone beneath your station? Ethan finished quietly. I wasn't going to phrase it that way, but that's how they'll see it. Adrienne moved closer, her expression fierce. Listen to me. You are not beneath anyone. You're a good father, a decent man, someone who works hard and treats people with respect. If my parents can't see that, then that's their failing, not yours. Easy to say now, harder when you're sitting across from them at some formal dinner. Then I won't sit across from them, Adrienne said flatly. I'll tell them the truth, that I found someone who values the same things I do, who's building the kind of family I want to be part of. If they can't accept that, I'll see them less. Or not at all. Ethan studied her face, seeing the determination there. You'd do that? Cut them off? If it came to it, yes. I've already had to set boundaries with them about my medical choices. This wouldn't be that different. He wanted to believe her. But he also knew how families worked, how expectations and obligations could pull people back in, how promises made in private could crumble under public pressure. Let's take this one step at a time, he said finally. Maybe we don't have to deal with your family right away. Agreed. For now, let's focus on us, on building this deliberately and carefully. Adrienne reached out and took his hand, and Ethan felt the warmth of it, the reality of the connection they were forming. I want this to work, Ethan. I really do. So do I. They stayed up talking until nearly midnight, discussing everything from how to handle discipline with Lily to how they'd manage finances if they eventually moved in together. It was the most unromantic relationship conversation Ethan had ever had, and somehow that made it feel more solid, more real. When he finally left, Adrienne walked him to the door and surprised him by rising on her toes to kiss his cheek. It was brief, almost chaste, but it left warmth spreading through his chest. See you Thursday? She asked. Thursday. And maybe Saturday, if you want to come to Lily's soccer game? I'd love that. Driving home through the quiet streets, Ethan felt something he'd almost forgotten. Optimism. The sense that the future might actually hold something good. The next few weeks unfolded with a surprising ease. Adrienne became a regular presence in their lives, attending Lily's soccer games, helping with homework on evenings when Ethan had to work late, joining them for weekend activities. She navigated the delicate balance of being involved without overstepping, always checking with Ethan before making decisions, always respecting that he was Lily's father first. Lily blossomed under the attention. She started bringing Adrienne drawings from school, asking her opinion on outfit choices, saving stories from her day to share over dinner. One evening, Ethan overheard her on a video call with her friend Emma. "Yeah, she's really nice," Lily was saying. "She knows about planets and she can braid hair better than Dad can. And she doesn't talk to me like I'm a baby. She asks real questions and listens to the answers." Ethan leaned against the doorframe listening. "Is she your new mom?" Emma asked. There was a pause. "I don't know yet, maybe. Dad says we're seeing if it works out." "I hope it does. You seem happier." After Lily hung up, Ethan found her in her room, organizing her bookshelf by color. "Hey, Lil, can we talk for a minute?" She looked up, instantly alert to the serious tone. "Did I do something wrong?" "No, nothing like that. I just wanted to check in with you about Adrienne, about how you're feeling with her being around more." Lily sat back on her heels. "I like her." "Yeah?" "Yeah, she's different from other people you've dated. She actually wants to be here. I can tell." "How can you tell?" "Because she remembers things," Lily said simply. "Like last week I told her about my science project, and then 2 days later she brought me an article about it that she found. And she came to my soccer game even though it was raining. People who don't want to be here don't do stuff like that." Ethan's throat tightened. "You're a pretty smart kid, you know that?" "I know," Lily grinned. "So are you going to marry her?" "Whoa, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're still figuring things out." "But you like her, right? Like for real like her?" "Yeah, Lil, I do." "Good, because I think she likes you too. She smiles different when you're around." Out of the mouths of babes, Ethan thought. What if things don't work out? Would you be okay? Lily considered this seriously. "I'd be sad." "But we'd still have each other, right?" "Always, no matter what." "Then I think it's worth trying. Miss Rodriguez at school says you can't win if you don't play." Miss Rodriguez is a wise woman. By mid-March, they'd fallen into a comfortable rhythm. Adrienne would come over Tuesday and Thursday evenings for dinner. Weekends usually included at least one shared activity: museums, parks, movies, the occasional restaurant if Lily was in the mood. Ethan had met some of Adrienne's colleagues at a work happy hour. Adrienne had become friends with Mrs. Chen, who'd declared her a sensible woman with a good head on her shoulders. They still hadn't fully defined their relationship to the outside world. To Lily's school, Adrienne was Ethan's girlfriend. To his coworkers, she was someone he was seeing seriously. To Mrs. Chen, she was family in the making. They hadn't slept together, hadn't even really kissed beyond brief touches of lips, friendly affection. It felt like they were both waiting for something, some signal that they'd moved from building a partnership to acknowledging the attraction that had been growing steadily beneath it all. The shift came on a quiet Thursday evening in late March. Lily had gone to bed early, worn out from a field trip to a local farm. Adrienne was helping Ethan clean up the dinner dishes, moving around his small kitchen with a familiarity that came from frequent practice. "You don't have to stay and help," Ethan said, not for the first time. "You've been working all day." "So have you. Besides, I like this, the domestic stuff." Dishes and leftovers? The whole thing, coming home to people I care about, having dinner together, helping with homework, reading bedtime stories. She dried the last plate and set it in the cabinet. "I used to think this would feel suffocating, but it doesn't. It feels right." Ethan turned off the water and faced her, suddenly aware of how close they were standing in the small kitchen. "Adrienne, I think we should talk about what we're doing," she said quietly. "Really talk about it." "Okay?" She took a breath. "I know we started this as a practical arrangement, a partnership first, everything else second. But somewhere along the way, it became more than that for me. And I think maybe for you too?" "It did," Ethan confirmed. "It has." "So where does that leave us?" He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, a gesture he'd wanted to make for weeks. "I think it leaves us admitting that this isn't just practical anymore, that we're not just building a partnership, we're building something real. Are you okay with that? With it being real?" "I'm more than okay with it." He rested his forehead against hers. "I'm falling for you, Adrienne. Not because you're good with Lily or because this arrangement makes sense. Because you're you. Because I like who I am when I'm with you." "I'm falling for you too." she whispered. I didn't plan on it. I thought I could keep this separate, keep my feelings controlled and manageable. But I can't. I don't want to. When they finally kissed, it felt like a culmination rather than a beginning. All the weeks of building trust and compatibility, crystallizing into this moment of genuine connection. It was soft and sweet and carried the weight of everything they'd been creating together. When they pulled apart, Adrienne was smiling. Well, that was worth waiting for. Yeah? Definitely. She glanced toward the hallway where Lily's room was. We should probably talk about how we handle this around her. The shift from girlfriend to something more serious. She already asked me if I was going to marry you. Adrienne's eyes widened. She did? About 3 weeks ago. I told her we were figuring things out. What did she say to that? She said it was worth trying, that you smile different when I'm around. I do? Apparently. And for what it's worth, I think she's right, about it being worth trying. Adrienne took his hand. I want to do this right, Ethan. I want to be deliberate about moving forward, making sure Lily's comfortable with each step. But I also want to be honest about where this is going. Where do you think it's going? I think we're building toward a life together, a real family. And I think maybe it's time we start being more intentional about that. Over the next hour, curled up on the couch with coffee, neither of them really drank. They mapped out what intentional looked like. Adrienne would start staying over occasionally, in the guest room at first, to let Lily get used to her being there in the mornings. They'd start talking about longer-term plans, maybe looking at bigger apartments or houses that could accommodate all three of them comfortably. They'd tell their families, navigate those complicated conversations together. Speaking of families, Adrienne said, her expression clouding slightly, I should probably warn you. My parents have started asking questions about why I'm so busy lately. I've been dodging, but I can't put them off forever. What do you think they'll say? My mother will have opinions about everything. My father will be more measured, but he'll have concerns about whether you're financially stable, whether this is a wise decision. They'll definitely have thoughts about Lily. And your siblings? I have a brother and a sister. Marcus is a cardiac surgeon like my father. He'll probably be fine with it. He's not as invested in family politics. Claire is a lawyer married to another lawyer, and she'll likely side with my mother on principle. Adrienne sighed. It's going to be uncomfortable. Do you want to wait? We don't have to tell them yet. No, I'd rather get it over with. And honestly, I want them to know. I'm proud of what we're building. I'm not going to hide it. When? Maybe in a couple of weeks? That gives us time to feel more solid about where we are, and it gives me time to prepare for the inevitable drama. They scheduled a family dinner at Adrienne's parents' house for the second weekend in April. In the meantime, life continued its steady forward momentum. Adrienne started staying over Friday nights, and Lily adjusted quickly to finding her at breakfast on Saturday mornings. They fell into easy weekend routines, pancakes and cartoons, trips to the farmer's market, lazy afternoons at the park. Adrienne's guest room presence gradually shifted to her sharing Ethan's room, a transition made after a careful conversation with Lily about what it meant when adults cared about each other. So you love her? Lily had asked, direct as always. Yeah, Lil? I do. And she loves you? She does. And me? Especially you. Lily had nodded, processing. Okay then, that's good. By early April, they were functioning as a unit. Adrienne had a key to Ethan's apartment. Half her wardrobe lived in his closet. They were making joint decisions about everything from what to have for dinner to whether Lily could join the summer science camp. The ease of it all felt almost suspicious, like they were waiting for the other shoe to drop. It dropped the week before the scheduled dinner with Adrienne's parents. Ethan's phone rang at work on a Tuesday afternoon, an unknown number he almost didn't answer. Something made him pick up. Ethan? It's Amanda. The world seemed to tilt. He stood up from his desk, walked into an empty conference room, closed the door. Amanda. His daughter's mother, his ex-wife. The woman who'd left them 3 years ago and hadn't looked back. Why are you calling? I've been thinking about Lily, about how much time has passed. I made a mistake, Ethan. Walking away from her was the biggest mistake of my life. His hand tightened on the phone. Where's this coming from? I've been in therapy, working through things, and I've realized that I ran away because I was scared. Not because I didn't love her. I want to make it right. After 3 years? I know I don't have the right to ask, but I want to see her, to try to be part of her life again. Ethan's mind raced. This couldn't be happening. Not now, not when everything was finally falling into place. She doesn't remember you, Amanda. You're a stranger to her. Then let me stop being a stranger. Please. I'm her mother. You gave up that title when you left. Legally, I didn't. I never terminated my parental rights. I still have a claim. The implicit threat hung in the air between them. Ethan felt cold spread through his chest. What exactly are you asking for? Visitation. Supervised at first, if that makes you more comfortable. I just want a chance to know my daughter. You can't just show up after 3 years and expect— I can try, Amanda interrupted. And I am. I'm asking nicely, Ethan, but if you refuse, I'll pursue legal channels. I've already consulted with a lawyer. After she hung up, Ethan sat in the empty conference room, his mind spinning. This couldn't be real. Amanda had been gone for 3 years. 3 years of birthday cards at best, complete silence at worst. Lily had built a life without her, had stopped asking about her, had started to let Adrienne fill that space. And now Amanda wanted back in? He called Adrienne from the parking lot after work, unable to wait until he got home. What's wrong? She asked immediately, hearing something in his voice. Amanda called. Lily's mother. She wants visitation. Silence on the other end. Then, what did you say? I didn't know what to say. She mentioned lawyers, legal rights. I don't know if she's serious or if she's bluffing. Where are you? Still at work. I needed to call you before I went home. Come here instead. I'll order dinner. We'll figure this out together. Together. The word settled something in him. When he arrived at Adrienne's place 20 minutes later, she had wine poured and Thai food on the way. She listened while he recounted the entire conversation, her expression growing more serious with each detail. She can't just do this, Adrienne said when he finished. Can she? I don't know. She never terminated her parental rights. Technically, she's still Lily's legal mother, even though she's been absent. If she pushes for it, a court might grant supervised visitation at minimum. But Lily doesn't know her, doesn't remember her. This would be traumatic. I know. Ethan dropped his head into his hands. And the timing of this, right when we're building something stable, when Lily's happy, it feels like the universe is testing us. Adrienne moved to sit beside him on the couch, taking his hand. Whatever happens, we handle it together. You're not alone in this. This isn't your problem. Yes, it is, she said firmly. We're partners, remember? That means your problems are my problems. Lily's well-being is my concern too. What do I tell her? Nothing yet. Not until we know what we're actually dealing with. Amanda might back off if you stand firm, or she might follow through, but we don't panic Lily until we have to. The food arrived, and they ate mostly in silence, both processing. Finally, Adrienne spoke. Do you think Amanda really wants to be a mother? Or is this about something else? I don't know. She sounded sincere on the phone, but she sounded sincere when she promised to try harder before she left too. Amanda's good at believing her own narratives. If she does push for visitation, you need a lawyer, a good one. I can't afford a good family lawyer, not the kind that would go up against whatever she might hire. Adrienne's jaw set. Then I'll help. I have money set aside. We use it for this. I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering. Lily's protection is worth any amount of money. Ethan looked at her, at this woman who'd walked into his life 4 months ago with an impossible proposal, who'd become essential to his daughter's happiness, who was now ready to fight legal battles that weren't technically hers to fight. I love you, he said suddenly. I don't think I've actually said that yet, but I do. I love you. Adrienne's eyes shone. I love you too. Both of you. Which is why we're going to fight this together if we need to. We're going to protect our family. Our family. The words settled over them like a promise. They spent the rest of the evening researching family law, making lists of lawyers to contact, strategizing responses. When Ethan finally left around 11, he felt less panicked than he had initially. Amanda was a threat, yes, but he wasn't facing her alone. The next morning, Amanda called again. Have you thought about what I asked? I've thought about it. Ethan said carefully. He was standing outside Lily's school, having just dropped her off. And I need time. You can't expect me to just hand over access to a child you haven't seen in 3 years. I'm not asking you to hand over anything. I'm asking for supervised visits, a chance to reconnect. Why now, Amanda? What changed? She hesitated. I told you, therapy, self-reflection, the realization that I made a terrible mistake. Or what? There's something you're not telling me. You don't just wake up after 3 years and decide to be a mother again. What's the real reason? Another pause, then quietly, I'm getting remarried. He wants children, and I realized I already have a child I abandoned. There it was. Amanda wanted to play mother because her new relationship made it convenient. So this is about impressing your fiancé? That's not fair. Neither is showing up after 3 years of silence and demanding access to a child you walked away from. Ethan felt his anger rising, hot and sharp. Do you have any idea what you did to her? How long it took for her to stop asking about you? How many times I had to explain that mommy wasn't coming back? I know I hurt her. You don't know anything. You weren't here. You didn't see her cry herself to sleep. You didn't answer her questions about whether she did something wrong. You don't get to waltz back in and play happy family because it suits your new life. Ethan, please, I need to think about this, and I need to consult with people who actually care about Lily's well-being. I'll call you back in a week. He hung up before she could respond, his heart pounding. Part of him felt guilty for the harshness. The other part wanted to throw his phone into traffic. When he got to work, there was an email from a law firm waiting. Amanda wasn't bluffing. Her lawyer had sent a formal letter requesting visitation mediation. Ethan forwarded it to Adrienne with a simple message. It's real. Her response came within minutes. I'm calling lawyers today. We've got this. That evening, they broke the news to Lily, carefully, with Adrienne there for support. Sweetheart, we need to talk to you about something important, Ethan began. They were sitting in the living room, Lily between them on the couch. Am I in trouble? No, nothing like that. This is about your mom, your birth mom. Lily's face went carefully blank, a defense mechanism Ethan recognized. Amanda reached out, he continued gently. She wants to see you, to spend time with you. Why? She says she made a mistake leaving, that she wants to know you. Lily looked down at her hands. I don't remember her. I know, baby, and that's okay. Do I have to see her? Ethan and Adrienne exchanged glances. We're trying to figure that out, Adrienne said softly. Your dad is talking to lawyers to understand what the options are, but we wanted you to know what was happening. Is she going to take me away? No, Ethan said firmly. That's not going to happen. No matter what, you stay with me. That's not changing. What about Adrienne? Lily looked at her with worried eyes. If my birth mom comes back, does that mean Adrienne has to leave? Absolutely not, Adrienne said, pulling Lily close. I'm not going anywhere. Whatever happens with Amanda, I'm still going to be here. That's a promise. Lily nodded against her shoulder, but Ethan could see the fear in his daughter's eyes. Fear that everything good in her life was about to be taken away again. That night, after Lily finally fell asleep, Ethan and Adrienne sat in the dark kitchen, exhaustion weighing on both of them. This is going to get ugly, Adrienne said quietly. I know. And it's happening right before I'm supposed to introduce you to my parents. We can postpone that. This is more important. She shook her head. No, we do it as planned, because we're not letting Amanda dictate our lives. We're moving forward, building our family, showing Lily that we're steady even when things get hard. You're sure? I'm sure. She took his hand across the table. We're going to get through this. All of it. The legal stuff with Amanda, the dinner with my parents, whatever comes next. Because that's what families do. They weather storms together. Ethan raised her hand to his lips. I don't know what I did to deserve you. You showed up, Adrienne said simply. You were real and honest and brave enough to try something different. That's all either of us did. We showed up. The following Saturday arrived with all the inevitability of a storm front. Adrienne's parents lived in a sprawling house in the North Shore suburbs, the kind of place that screamed old money and older expectations. Ethan had spent the entire drive rehearsing conversations in his head while Lily chattered nervously in the back seat. They decided to bring her, to show Adrian's family exactly what they were building. It was a risk, but hiding Lily felt wrong. "Remember," Adrian said as they pulled up the long driveway, "no matter what they say, we're a team. If it gets too uncomfortable, we leave. Agreed?" "Agreed," Ethan said. "Agreed," Lily echoed from the back, her small hand gripping her stuffed elephant. The front door opened before they reached it. A woman who could only be Adrian's mother stood framed in the entrance, impeccably dressed, perfectly coiffed, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Adrienne, you're late." "We hit traffic, Mother. This is Ethan Cole and his daughter, Lily." Victoria Vale's gaze swept over them with the efficiency of an appraiser evaluating merchandise. "How lovely! Please, come in." The house was exactly what Ethan expected. Expensive furniture, original artwork, the kind of carefully curated wealth that whispered rather than shouted. Adrian's father appeared from what looked like a study, tall and distinguished with silver hair and a firm handshake. "Jonathan Vale, good to meet you, Ethan." "You as well, sir." Lily pressed close to Adrian's side, and Ethan saw his partner's hand settle protectively on her shoulder. Dinner was served in a formal dining room, and the interrogation began before appetizers arrived. "So, Ethan," Victoria began, her tone polite but pointed as the first course was served, "Adrian mentioned you work in software. What exactly does that entail?" "I'm a senior developer at a tech consulting firm. We build custom solutions for mid-sized companies, inventory management, client relationship systems, that sort of thing." "How interesting." The way she said it suggested it was anything but. "And you've been there how long?" 5 years. I started as a junior developer and worked my way up." Jonathan cut into his salad with surgical precision. "Stable company? Good benefits?" "Very stable. The benefits are solid: health insurance, 401k matching, professional development budget." "That's important," Jonathan said, his eyes flicking to Lily. "When you have dependents." Adrian's hand tightened on her water glass. "Dad, it's a reasonable question," Victoria interrupted smoothly. "After all, we're simply trying to understand the situation. Adrienne has been quite secretive about her personal life lately." "I haven't been secretive," Adrienne said evenly. "I've been private. There's a difference." "Of course, dear." Victoria turned her attention to Lily, who had been doing an admirable job of staying quiet. "And you're how old, sweetheart?" 7, Lily said softly. 7. What a lovely age. Are you doing well in school?" "Yes, ma'am. I'm on the honor roll." "How wonderful. Though I imagine it must be challenging being raised by a single father. You must miss having a mother figure." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Ethan saw Lily's face flush, saw her shrink into herself. "Lily has never lacked for anything," Adrienne said, her voice taking on an edge. "And she's not being raised by a single father anymore. She's being raised by both of us." Victoria's eyebrows rose delicately. "Both of you? That's quite a commitment to make so quickly. How long have you two been seeing each other?" 4 months, Adrienne said. 4 months, Victoria repeated. "And you're already playing house?" "We're building a family," Adrienne corrected, "and it's not playing anything. We're quite serious." Jonathan set down his fork. "Adrienne, we're simply concerned. This is very sudden. You haven't introduced us to anyone in years, and now you appear with a ready-made family and expect us to simply accept it?" "I expect you to be respectful," Adrienne said firmly. "That's all I expect." Marcus, Adrienne's brother, had been silent through most of the exchange. Now he spoke up from across the table. "I think what Mom and Dad are trying to say, poorly, is that they're surprised. This is different from what we expected for you." "Different how?" Adrienne challenged. Claire, her sister, jumped in before Marcus could respond. "Come on, Adrienne, you know what they mean. You're a director at a major medical device company. You come from a certain background. And now you're dating a software developer with a child from a previous relationship. It's not exactly what we envisioned." "What you envisioned," Adrienne said coldly, "is irrelevant. My life is not a script written by this family." "We're not saying it is," Victoria interjected, "but surely you can understand our concern. What about children? You've always said you couldn't have them, and now you're taking on someone else's child as if that's a solution to—" "Stop." Adrienne's voice cut through the room like a blade. "Stop right there. Lily is not a solution to anything. She's a person, a wonderful, intelligent, kind person who I care about deeply. And if you can't see her as anything other than someone else's obligation, then we have nothing more to discuss." Lily's eyes had filled with tears. She looked at Ethan, silently pleading. Ethan made his decision in that instant. "I think we should go," he said quietly, standing up. "Lily, grab your things." "Ethan, wait," Adrienne started. "No, they're right about one thing. This was too soon. We shouldn't have come here and subjected Lily to this." He looked directly at Victoria and Jonathan. "Thank you for the invitation, but I won't sit here while my daughter is treated like she's somehow less than because of circumstances she didn't choose." Victoria's face flushed. "We weren't treating her as less than—" "Yes, you were," Ethan said flatly. "Every comment about single fathers and missing mother figures, every implication that she's baggage I come with rather than the best part of my life. I've heard it all before from women I dated. I won't hear it from people who are supposed to care about Adrienne." "How dare you speak to my parents that way?" Claire said, standing up. "You come into our home—" "Claire, enough," Marcus said quietly. "No, not enough. He walks in here with his child, takes advantage of our sister's inability to have her own family, and then has the audacity to lecture us about respect?" Adrienne stood so abruptly her chair scraped against the floor. "Get out." Claire blinked. "What?" "I said get out, all of you. This is exactly why I didn't bring them here sooner. I knew you'd reduce everything to bloodlines and social standing and your narrow definition of what family should look like." "Adrienne," Jonathan started. "No, Dad. I'm done. I have spent my entire life trying to meet expectations that were designed to make me into a copy of what you wanted. The right schools, the right career, the right image. Well, I found something real, something that actually matters, and you can't even pretend to be happy for me." "We want you to be happy," Victoria said, her voice strained, "but we also want you to be realistic. This man, this situation, you're taking on enormous responsibility for someone you barely know. I know him better than you think, and yes, I'm taking on responsibility. That's what people do when they build families. They choose each other and they take on responsibility together." "But she's not your child," Victoria said, gesturing at Lily. The words hung in the air like poison. Lily made a small sound, not quite a sob, but close. Adrienne moved immediately to her side, kneeling down to her level. "Hey, look at me," she said softly. Lily's tears were falling freely now. "Don't listen to her. You are my choice. You understand me? I choose you every single day I choose you." "But she's right," Lily whispered. "I'm not really yours. You're just helping my dad." "No." Adrienne cupped Lily's face gently. "That's not true. You're mine in every way that matters. Blood doesn't make family. Love does. Choice does. And I choose you." Ethan felt something break open in his chest watching them. This was the moment, the real test of everything they'd been building, and Adrienne wasn't backing down. Jonathan cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should all calm down." "We're leaving," Ethan said. "Adrienne, are you coming with us?" It was the question that mattered, the one that would define everything. Adrienne stood, still holding Lily's hand. She looked at her parents, her siblings, the life she'd been born into. Then she looked at Ethan and Lily, the life she was choosing. "Yes," she said simply. "I'm coming with you." Victoria's face went pale. "Adrienne, if you walk out that door—" "What? You'll disown me? Cut me off?" Adrienne's laugh was bitter. "You've been holding those threats over my head my entire life. I'm tired of it. I choose them. And if you can't accept that, then I guess we have some decisions to make about our relationship going forward." "You're being irrational," Claire said. "I'm being honest. For the first time in my life, I'm being completely honest about what I want." Adrienne grabbed her purse. "Come on, let's go home." They walked out together, Lily between them, neither looking back as the door closed behind them. The drive home was silent except for Lily's occasional sniffles. Adrienne sat in the back with her, holding her hand, while Ethan drove through the darkening evening. When they finally pulled up to the apartment, Lily spoke. "I'm sorry I ruined dinner." "You didn't ruin anything," Ethan said immediately, turning in his seat. "None of that was your fault." "But they were mean because of me." "They were mean because they're small-minded people who judge others based on things that don't matter," Adrienne said fiercely. That's their failing, not yours. Do you understand? Lily nodded, but she didn't look convinced. Inside the apartment, Ethan got Lily ready for bed while Adrienne made tea neither of them would probably drink. When Lily was finally settled, after 3 stories, 2 glasses of water, and multiple reassurances that everyone still loved her, Ethan found Adrienne standing at the kitchen window, staring out at nothing. "You didn't have to do that," he said quietly. "Yes, I did." "You walked away from your family for us." "I walked away from people who were hurting a child I love. That's not the same thing." She turned to face him, her eyes red-rimmed but fierce. "And honestly, I should have done it years ago. I've been trying to earn their approval my entire life, and it was never going to happen. Not on terms I could live with. Still, that couldn't have been easy." "It wasn't." Her voice cracked slightly. "But staying in that room, listening to them treat Lily like she was less than, watching her face, that would have been impossible. I made my choice the moment I told her I choose her. I meant it." Ethan crossed the kitchen and pulled her into his arms. She collapsed against him, and he felt her shoulders shake with silent tears. "I'm sorry," he murmured into her hair. "Don't be. This was always going to happen. Better now than later, when it could do more damage." They stood there for a long moment, holding each other in the quiet kitchen. Finally, Adrienne pulled back. "I need to tell you something," she said. "Okay. When your ex-wife called, when all this stuff with Amanda started, there was a part of me that wondered if I was strong enough for this, if I was really ready to fight these battles, to weather these storms. I had doubts. That's natural. Let me finish. I had doubts, but tonight erased them. Because when I heard my mother say Lily wasn't mine, something crystallized for me. She is mine. Not biologically, not legally yet, but in every way that actually matters. And I will fight for her, for both of you. Whatever it takes." Ethan's throat tightened. "We'll fight for you too. Whatever comes next with your family, you're not facing it alone." "I know." She managed a small smile. "That's the difference between them and you. You actually mean it when you say we're in this together." They sat up late that night, processing everything that had happened. Adrienne's phone buzzed repeatedly. Texts from her brother, her sister, even her father. She ignored them all. "I'll deal with them eventually," she said. "But not tonight. Tonight, I just want to be here, with you and Lily, the family I chose." Around midnight, they finally went to bed, exhausted emotionally, if not physically. Ethan checked on Lily one more time and found Adrienne already there, sitting on the edge of the bed, smoothing hair back from Lily's sleeping face. "She cried for about 20 minutes after you left the room," Adrienne whispered. "I heard her through the wall. I almost went in, but I thought maybe she needed space. She's processing. She's had a lot thrown at her lately. Too much. Between Amanda resurfacing and my disaster of a family, she's dealing with more than any 7-year-old should have to. We'll get through it. All of it." Adrienne looked up at him. "How are you so calm about all this?" "I'm not calm. I'm terrified. But I'm also sure about you, about us, about what we're building. And that certainty makes the fear manageable." She stood and kissed him softly. "I love you, both of you. So much it scares me sometimes." "I love you too, and it's going to be okay. I promise." The week that followed was complicated. Adrienne's mother called repeatedly, leaving increasingly agitated voicemails that ranged from apologetic to accusatory. Her father sent formal emails requesting a conversation. Claire sent a single text. "You're making a huge mistake." Only Marcus reached out with something resembling support. "I don't agree with how Mom and Dad handled that," his message read, "but I understand why they're concerned. Call me when you're ready to talk. No judgment." Adrienne wasn't ready to talk to any of them. She was too busy dealing with the aftermath, the guilt, the anger, the grief of losing people she'd loved even though they'd hurt her. Meanwhile, Amanda's lawyer continued to press for mediation. Ethan had hired an attorney, a sharp woman named Patricia Chen, who specialized in family law and had immediately understood the stakes. "Amanda's case is weak," Patricia explained in their first meeting. "She abandoned her parental responsibilities for 3 years. Courts look very unfavorably on that. But she does have legal standing as Lily's biological mother, and if she pushes, will likely end up in mediation at minimum. What's best for Lily? Ethan asked. Honestly, probably supervised visitation in a neutral setting. Nothing that disrupts her routine, nothing that suggests Amanda is stepping back into a parental role. Just structured time that lets Amanda satisfy whatever need is driving this while protecting Lily's emotional well-being. And if Amanda wants more, we fight. But let's see what happens in mediation first. Sometimes people realize what they're asking for when they actually have to articulate it in front of a mediator. The mediation was scheduled for 2 weeks out. In the meantime, Ethan and Adrian tried to maintain normalcy for Lily's sake. They went to her soccer games, helped with homework, had movie nights. But there was a heaviness hanging over everything. Lily started having nightmares. She'd wake up crying, convinced that her birth mother was going to take her away, or that Adrian was going to leave like everyone else had. Ethan would comfort her, reassure her, but the fear kept returning. One particularly bad night, after the third nightmare in a row, Lily asked the question that had been building. If my birth mom comes back, does Adrian have to go away? No, sweetheart. Adrian isn't going anywhere. But she's not really my mom. Not like Amanda is. Ethan sat on the edge of her bed, choosing his words carefully. Amanda gave birth to you, that's true. But being a mom is about more than biology. It's about showing up every day. It's about being there when you're scared or sick or happy or sad. It's about choosing someone over and over again. Like Adrian does? Exactly like Adrian does. She chose you at that restaurant when she decided to meet me. She chose you when she came to your soccer game in the rain. She chose you when she stood up to her family. That's what real parents do. They choose. But what if my birth mom wants to choose me now? Do I have to choose her back? The question broke his heart. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. Nobody is going to force you into a relationship you don't want. Promise? I promise. You're safe, Lily. No matter what happens with Amanda, you're safe with me and Adrienne. We've got you. She seemed to settle after that, drifting back to sleep. But Ethan lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he'd just made a promise he couldn't keep. The next morning, he found Adrienne in the kitchen making coffee, looking as tired as he felt. Rough night? She asked. Third nightmare. She's convinced that Amanda coming back means you have to leave. Adrienne's face crumpled. That's not true. I've told her that repeatedly. I know, but she's 7, and her experience tells her that when one parent appears, the other disappears. It's her pattern. Then we need to break the pattern. Adrienne poured them both coffee. We need to show her, concretely, tangibly, that we're permanent. How do we do that? She was quiet for a moment, then said, What if we formalize it? What if we got married? Ethan nearly dropped his mug. Married. I know it's fast. I know it's not how we planned this, but maybe it would give Lily the security she needs. The concrete proof that we're in this permanently. Marriage is a huge step. We were already heading there, Adrienne pointed out. We've talked about living together, about building a life. This just accelerates the timeline. For Lily's sake, for all our sakes. Because I don't want there to be any question about where I stand. I want legal standing if something happens to you. I want to be able to make decisions about Lily's welfare. I want her to know that I'm not going anywhere, ever, regardless of what Amanda does. Ethan set down his coffee and took both her hands. You're serious about this? Completely serious. I want to marry you, Ethan. I wanted to marry you before this mess with Amanda started. I just hadn't figured out how to bring it up. This just makes it more urgent. What about your family? The fallout from dinner? My family can either accept my choices or not. I'm done letting them dictate my life. Her eyes were fierce. I choose you. I choose Lily. I choose this family we're building, and I want to make it official. He should have felt rushed, should have felt pressured. Instead, he felt something settle into place, like the final piece of a puzzle clicking home. Okay, he said. Okay. Yeah, let's get married. Let's make this official and show Lily exactly where we stand. Adrienne's smile broke through like sunrise. Really? Really? Though I should probably do this properly. He dropped to one knee right there in the kitchen, still holding her hands. Adrienne Vale, will you marry me? Will you be my partner, Lily's mother, the foundation of this family we're building together? Yes, she said, pulling him up and kissing him. Yes, absolutely yes. They told Lily that evening, sitting her down in the living room with the seriousness the moment deserved. "We have something important to tell you," Ethan began. "Adrian and I are getting married." Lily's eyes went wide. "Really?" "Really," Adrian confirmed. "We want to be a family. Officially, legally, permanently. What do you think about that?" "Does that mean you'll be my mom for real?" "I'm already your mom for real," Adrian said gently. "But yes, legally I'll be your stepmother, which means I'll have all the same rights and responsibilities as any other parent. It means I'm choosing you forever, not just for now." Lily launched herself at Adrian, wrapping her arms around her neck. "I think it's the best thing ever." They held each other while Ethan watched, his own eyes burning. This was it, the moment everything became real. Not a trial period or an experiment, a commitment, a choice to be family. "When?" Lily asked, pulling back. "Soon," Ethan said. "We're not going to wait. Maybe a few weeks, just enough time to get the legal stuff sorted out." "Can I be in the wedding?" "You're not just in the wedding," Adrian said. "You're the most important part. This is about all three of us becoming a family." That night, after Lily had gone to bed still buzzing with excitement, Ethan and Adrian sat on the couch making plans. "We should probably tell people," Adrian said. "Your friends. My brother, at least." "What about your parents?" She hesitated. "Eventually, but not yet. I'm not ready to deal with whatever their reaction will be. They might surprise you. They might. But I'd rather focus on us right now, on building what we have, instead of defending it to people who've already made up their minds." "Fair enough." They decided on a simple ceremony at the courthouse with a small celebration afterward. Just close friends, Mrs. Chen, Marcus if he wanted to come. Nothing fancy, nothing elaborate, just the three of them making their commitment official. 2 weeks. They had 2 weeks until the mediation with Amanda, and Ethan wanted to go into that meeting as Lily's married parents, presenting a united front. Word spread quickly once they started telling people. Ethan's coworkers were surprised but supportive. Mrs. Chen cried happy tears and immediately started planning what she'd wear to the ceremony. Marcus responded to Adrian's text with congratulations and a promise to be there. But it was Lily's teacher who really drove home what this meant. Miss Rodriguez pulled Ethan aside at pickup one afternoon. "I wanted to let you know that Lily's been talking about the wedding in class. She seems very excited." "She is. We all are." "I'm glad. She's been through a lot of changes lately, and it's nice to see her happy about one of them." Miss Rodriguez paused. "She also mentioned that her birth mother might be coming back into the picture?" Ethan grimaced. "Unfortunately, yes. We're in mediation in about 10 days. How is Lily handling it?" "She's scared, anxious, having nightmares. We're doing our best to reassure her." "Well, for what it's worth, she talks about Adrienne like she's already her mother. The love there is very clear. Whatever happens with the birth mother, Lily knows who her real family is." The words stayed with Ethan as he drove Lily home. She knew who her real family was. No matter what Amanda tried to claim, no matter what the courts might mandate, Lily's heart had already made its choice. The days leading up to the mediation were a strange mix of wedding planning and legal preparation. Patricia had them gather documentation, photos of Adrienne with Lily, testimony from teachers and Mrs. Chen, evidence of the stable home life they'd built. She wanted to show the mediator that Lily was thriving, that Amanda's sudden reappearance would disrupt that stability. "The goal is supervised visitation in a neutral location," Patricia reminded them. "Nothing that suggests Amanda is resuming a parental role. We emphasize that you two are Lily's parents now, and Amanda is essentially a stranger requesting access." "What if she pushes for more?" Adrian asked. "Then we go to court and let a judge decide. But most likely, she'll accept supervised visitation rather than drag this out. It lets her feel like she's doing something without actually requiring real commitment." The mediation was scheduled for a Thursday morning. The wedding was planned for the Saturday after, 2 days to recover from whatever emotional damage the mediation might cause, before they celebrated their commitment. Wednesday night, the night before facing Amanda, Ethan couldn't sleep. He got up around 2 in the morning and found Adrienne already awake in the kitchen. "Can't sleep either?" he asked. "Too many thoughts." She was holding a mug of tea, staring out the window. "I keep wondering if we're doing the right thing. If getting married this fast is fair to you, to Lily. If we're making a decision based on fear instead of love, Ethan came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. We're making a decision based on both. The fear is real. Amanda is a threat to Lily's stability. But the love is real too. I would be marrying you regardless of Amanda. She just accelerated our timeline. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He turned her to face him. Tomorrow, we face Amanda. We show her that Lily has a family, that we're united, that she can't disrupt what we've built. And then Saturday, we make it official. We choose each other in front of witnesses and make promises we intend to keep. That's not fear. That's love backed by commitment. Adrienne leaned into him. I'm scared. Me too. But we're scared together. And that makes all the difference. They stood there in the dark kitchen, holding each other, gathering strength for the battle ahead. Tomorrow would bring Amanda, mediation, confrontation. But Saturday would bring promises, commitment, and the official formation of the family they'd been building all along. Ethan just had to get through the next 36 hours first. Thursday morning arrived with gray skies that matched Ethan's mood. He'd managed maybe 3 hours of sleep, and Adrienne looked equally exhausted when they met in the kitchen at 6. Lily was still asleep, blissfully unaware that today her parents would sit across from a woman who claimed rights to her simply because of biology. I made coffee, Adrienne said, though her own cup sat untouched on the counter. Thanks. Ethan poured himself a mug and stood beside her, both of them staring out at the awakening city. Patricia said to be there by 9. We should leave here by 8:30 to account for traffic. What do we tell Lily? The truth? That we're meeting with Amanda and some other adults to talk about what's best for everyone. That she's safe with Mrs. Chen and will be back by lunchtime. She's going to be terrified all morning. I know, but lying to her would be worse. When Lily woke up an hour later, she took the news with a quiet resignation that broke Ethan's heart. She was learning too young that sometimes scary things happen, and you just had to endure them. Will you call me when it's over? She asked, her voice small. The second we walk out of that building, Ethan promised, and Mrs. Chen is going to take you to get hot chocolate after breakfast. The good kind with the whipped cream. Okay. She hugged him tightly, then turned to Adrienne. You're coming back, right? Absolutely. Wild horses couldn't keep me away. Adrienne knelt down, holding Lily's shoulders. Listen to me. No matter what happens in that meeting, nothing changes for us. You're still mine, I'm still yours. Understand? Lily nodded, but her eyes were wet. Mrs. Chen arrived promptly at 8, armed with art supplies and a cheerful attitude that barely masked her own concern. She pulled Ethan aside while Adrienne helped Lily pick out coloring books. You give them hell, she whispered fiercely. That woman walked away. She doesn't get to just walk back. We're going to try. You do more than try. That little girl in there has been through enough. She finally has stability, has a mother who actually shows up. Don't let some lawyer convince you otherwise. Ethan squeezed her hand. We won't. The drive to the mediation center was tense and silent. Adrienne sat in the passenger seat, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Ethan wanted to say something comforting, but he couldn't find the words. They were walking into the unknown, and platitudes felt hollow. Patricia met them in the parking lot, her briefcase in hand and her expression all business. Remember, she said as they walked toward the building, stay calm, stay factual. The mediator is here to find middle ground, not to make judgments. Amanda's lawyer is going to paint her as a reformed woman who made a mistake. We're going to paint you as stable parents who have built a secure home for Lily. The goal is supervised visitation at most. What if she asks to see Lily today? Adrienne asked. She won't, not at mediation. This is just about establishing terms. Any actual visits would be scheduled separately. The mediation center was exactly as Ethan had imagined. Beige walls, generic art, the smell of stale coffee, and anxiety. They were directed to a conference room where Amanda and her lawyer were already waiting. Seeing her again after 3 years was surreal. Amanda looked older, more polished. Her blonde hair was shorter, styled professionally. She wore a tasteful suit that probably cost more than Ethan's monthly rent. When she saw him, something flickered across her face. Guilt, maybe, or regret. Ethan, she said quietly. Amanda. Her eyes shifted to Adrienne, and Ethan watched her assess this new variable in the equation. You must be Adrienne. Amanda Cole. Well, Amanda Brennan now. I'm getting remarried. I heard, Adrienne said coolly. Congratulations. The mediator entered before the tension could escalate further, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Her name was Sandra Martinez, and she'd been doing this for 20 years, according to the credentials on the wall. Good morning, everyone. Let's get started. She settled into her chair and opened a folder. I've reviewed the preliminary documents from both parties. Ms. Brennan, you're seeking visitation rights with your daughter, Lily, age 7, after a 3-year absence. Mr. Cole and Ms. Vale, you're opposing unsupervised visitation and requesting that any contact be limited and structured. Is that accurate? Yes, both sides confirmed. All right. Ms. Brennan, why don't you start by explaining what you're hoping to achieve here? Amanda's lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Deborah Klein, spoke first. My client recognizes that she made a difficult decision 3 years ago to step back from active parenting while she worked through significant mental health challenges. She's since completed extensive therapy, rebuilt her life, and is now in a position to resume a relationship with her daughter. She's not seeking to disrupt Lily's current living situation, merely to establish regular contact. Mental health challenges, Patricia repeated. Can you be more specific? Postpartum depression that went undiagnosed and untreated for 2 years, Amanda said, her voice quiet. I was drowning and I didn't know how to ask for help. Leaving felt like the only way to keep from hurting Lily more than I already had. And yet you didn't seek treatment until recently? Patricia challenged. I sought treatment immediately after I left. It took time to find the right therapist, the right medication, and then it took more time to get to a place where I felt capable of being a mother. Ethan felt a familiar anger rising. She'd left them struggling and alone while she worked on herself. That was her right, he supposed, but it didn't give her the right to waltz back in. Mr. Cole, Sandra said, turning to him, can you describe Lily's current situation, her living arrangements, her emotional state? Ethan took a breath, forcing himself to speak calmly. Lily lives with me full-time. She's thriving in school, honor roll, advanced reading level. She plays soccer, she has friends, she's happy and secure, and for the past 4 months, Adrienne has been an active part of her life. They have a strong bond. Lily sees her as a mother figure. A mother figure she's known for 4 months, Deborah interjected, versus her biological mother who carried her for 9 months and raised her for the first 2 years of her life. And then abandoned her, Adrienne said sharply. Let's not romanticize what happened. Amanda left when Lily was 2 years old and has had virtually no contact since. Lily doesn't remember her. To her, Amanda is a stranger. A stranger who wants to change that, Amanda said, speaking directly to Adrienne for the first time. I'm not trying to replace you or disrupt what you've built. I just want a chance to know my daughter. She's not a possession you can reclaim when it's convenient, Adrienne shot back. She's a child who's already been abandoned once. Do you have any idea what kind of damage another disruption could cause? Sandra held up a hand. Let's keep this productive. Miss Vale, I understand you and Mr. Cole are planning to marry? This Saturday, actually, Adrienne confirmed. Deborah's eyebrows rose. That's rather sudden, isn't it? 4 months of dating and you're rushing to the altar right as my client requests contact with her daughter. It seems almost defensive. It's not defensive, Ethan said firmly. We were already planning to get married. Amanda's reappearance just made the timeline more urgent. Why the urgency? Sandra asked gently. Adrienne answered. Because Lily is terrified. She's having nightmares about being taken away from the only stable home she's ever known. She needed concrete reassurance that I'm permanent, that our family is real. Marriage provides that reassurance. And legal standing, Deborah noted. It gives you parental rights you wouldn't otherwise have. It formalizes what's already true, Adrienne countered. I am Lily's mother in every meaningful sense. This just makes it official. Sandra made notes, her expression neutral. Ms. Brennan, what specifically are you requesting in terms of visitation? I'd like to start with supervised visits, Amanda said. Maybe an hour or two every other week in a neutral location. I understand that Lily doesn't know me. I'm not expecting to jump back into full parenting. I just want the opportunity to build a relationship. And eventually, Patricia asked, eventually I'd hope to move to unsupervised visits, Maybe weekend custody once we've established trust. But I'm willing to go slowly. Weekend custody, Ethan repeated, his voice tight. You want to take her for weekends after 3 years of absence? Not immediately, but yes, eventually that's something I'd like to work toward. Absolutely not. He felt Adrian's hand on his arm, grounding him, but he couldn't contain his anger. You don't get to pick and choose when to be a parent. You walked away when it was hard. You missed 3 years of her life, 3 years of scraped knees and bad dreams and parent-teacher conferences. You don't get to show up now that she's more independent and claim weekends. I made a mistake, Amanda said, her voice breaking slightly. I know that. I live with that guilt every single day, but I'm trying to make it right. You can't make it right, Ethan said flatly. The damage is done. The question now is whether we're going to let you do more damage by forcing yourself back into her life when she doesn't want you there. You don't know that she doesn't want me there. You haven't even asked her. The words hit like a slap, because she was right. They hadn't asked Lily what she wanted. They'd been so focused on protecting her that they hadn't given her a voice in the decision. Sandra seemed to sense the shift. I think it might be beneficial to have a child psychologist evaluate Lily and provide recommendations on what would serve her best interests. Someone neutral who can assess her emotional state and her feelings about potential contact with Ms. Brennan. We're fine with that, Patricia said immediately. Deborah nodded. As are we. Good. I'll arrange for an evaluation within the next 2 weeks. In the meantime, I'm recommending a temporary hold on any visitation until we have professional input on what would be appropriate. Sandra looked at both parties. I know this isn't what either of you wanted to hear, but we need to center Lily's needs in this process. Agreed? Agreed, they all murmured. The mediation continued for another hour, hammering out details about the evaluation, discussing logistics, setting another meeting for after the psychologist's report. But the tenor had shifted. They weren't going to resolve this today. This was going to be a long, drawn-out process. When they finally walked out into the gray afternoon, Ethan felt hollowed out. Adrian looked equally drained. That went about as well as could be expected, Patricia said. The evaluation is actually good for you. If the psychologist determines that contact with Amanda would be harmful, that carries significant weight with judges. And if they determine it would be beneficial, Adrian asked, then we work with that. We structure it carefully, maintain control over the parameters. But let's not borrow trouble. Take this one step at a time. Ethan called Lily from the parking lot as promised. She answered on the first ring. Dad? Hey, sweetheart, we're done. We're heading home now. Is everything okay? Everything's okay. We'll talk more when we get there, all right? How was hot chocolate? Good. Mrs. Chen let me get extra whipped cream. She paused. Is Adrian still there? I'm right here, Adrian said, leaning close to the phone. Told you I'd come back. I knew you would, Lily said, but there was relief in her voice. When they got home, they found Lily and Mrs. Chen in the middle of an elaborate art project involving glitter and construction paper. Lily ran to hug them both, holding on longer than usual. Mrs. Chen took one look at their faces and started packing up her things. I think you three need some family time. Lily, you be good, okay? After she left, they sat Lily down in the living room and explained what had happened in terms she could understand. There's going to be a doctor who talks to kids about their feelings, Ethan said. She's going to ask you some questions about how you feel about things, about our family, about Amanda, and whatever you tell her is okay. There's no right or wrong answers. We just want to know what you need. What if I don't want to see her? Lily asked quietly. Then you tell the doctor that, Adrian said, and we'll make sure your feelings are heard. But what if the doctor says I have to? No one is going to force you to do anything that makes you uncomfortable, Ethan promised. The doctor is there to help figure out what's best for you, not to make you do scary things. Lily seemed to accept this, though she remained subdued for the rest of the day. That night she asked to sleep in Ethan's room, wedged between him and Adrian like she used to do when she was smaller and had nightmares. Friday passed in a blur of wedding preparations and nervous energy. They finalized arrangements for the courthouse ceremony, picked up the marriage license, called the few friends who'd be attending. Marcus confirmed he'd be there with his wife. Mrs. Chen was bringing a cake she'd insisted on making. A colleague of Adrian's would be taking photos. It would be small and simple and perfect. But hovering over everything was the knowledge that they were doing this partly out of love and partly out of fear. Fear of what Amanda might take from them. Fear of losing the family they'd built. Friday night, after Lily had finally fallen asleep in her own bed, Ethan found Adrienne in the bathroom, staring at her reflection in the mirror. "Second thoughts?" he asked gently. "No, just regular thoughts. Wondering if we're doing this for the right reasons." "We are. Amanda might have accelerated things, but this would be happening regardless. We were already heading here." "I know, it's just—" She turned to face him. "What if I'm not enough? What if the courts decide that biological connection matters more than the relationship we've built? What if I lose you both?" He pulled her close. "You're not going to lose us. Whatever happens with Amanda, whatever some psychologist recommends, whatever a judge might decide, you are Lily's mother. Tomorrow makes that official, but it's already true. Promise me we'll fight. If they try to take her, if Amanda pushes for more, promise me we'll fight with everything we have. I promise. We're in this together, remember? For better or worse." "We're not even married yet, and you're already using the vows," she said, managing a small smile. "Practice run." Saturday morning arrived clear and cold. Ethan woke to find Lily already awake, sitting on the floor of his room in her pajamas. "What are you doing up so early?" he asked. "Today's your wedding day. I wanted to make sure I was ready." Something in his chest cracked open. "Come here, Lil." She climbed onto the bed and he wrapped his arms around her. "You know what today means, right? Adrienne becomes your stepmom. Legally, officially, permanently." "I know. That's the best part." "Yeah?" "Yeah, because now if anyone asks, I can tell them I have a mom. A real one who chose me." Ethan had to close his eyes against the sudden burning. "You've always had that. This just makes it official on paper." "I know, but the paper part matters too. It means she's not going anywhere." Except she could, Ethan thought. If Amanda pushed hard enough, if the court sided with biology over choice, Adrienne's legal standing might not matter. But he couldn't tell Lily that. Not today. They spent the morning getting ready with a mix of excitement and nerves. Lily wore a new dress, purple, her favorite color, that Adrienne had helped her pick out earlier in the week. Adrienne wore a simple cream dress that somehow made her look ethereal. Ethan had splurged on a new suit. The courthouse was surprisingly beautiful inside, all marble and natural light. Their small group gathered in a waiting area, Marcus and his wife Elena, Mrs. Chin dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, Adrienne's colleague Sarah with her camera. When the clerk called their names, they filed into a small room where a judge waited. Judge Patricia Morrison was probably in her 60s, with kind eyes and a warm smile. "I understand we have a special ceremony today," she said. "Not just a marriage, but the formation of a new family." "That's right," Ethan confirmed. "And you must be Lily," the judge said, addressing her directly. "Your dad and Adrienne asked if you could be part of the ceremony. Would you like that?" Lily nodded shyly. "Wonderful. Come stand between them." They arranged themselves, Ethan on one side, Adrienne on the other, Lily between them holding both their hands. The judge smiled at the tableau they made. "We're gathered here today to witness the marriage of Ethan Cole and Adrienne Vale, and to recognize the family they're creating together. Ethan, do you take Adrienne to be your lawfully wedded wife, to love and honor, in sickness and in health, for as long as you both shall live?" "I do," Ethan said, his voice strong. "Adrienne, do you take Ethan to be your lawfully wedded husband, to love and honor, in sickness and in health, for as long as you both shall live?" "I do," Adrienne said, her eyes bright. "And now, if you'll permit me, I'd like to add something special." The judge looked down at Lily. "Lily, when two people get married, they make promises to each other. But in this case, there's someone else who should be included in those promises. Adrienne, would you like to make a promise to Lily?" Adrienne knelt down to Lily's level, taking both her hands. "Lily, I promise to be here for you every single day. I promise to help you with homework and come to your soccer games and listen when you need to talk. I promise to protect you and support you and love you unconditionally. You are my daughter in every way that matters, and I will never ever leave you. Do you believe me?" "Yes," Lily whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Good, because it's true." Adrienne pulled a small box from her pocket. Inside was a delicate silver ring with a small purple stone. I got this for you. It's like a wedding ring, but it's just yours. It means you're part of this family forever. She slid it onto Lily's finger, and Lily threw her arms around Adrienne's neck, sobbing into her shoulder. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Judge Morrison gave them a moment, then continued with the ceremony. The exchange of rings between Ethan and Adrienne felt almost secondary to what had just happened with Lily, but it was no less meaningful. These were their promises, their commitment to build something lasting. By the power vested in me by the state of Illinois, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss. The kiss was gentle and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Lily was between them again, one hand in each of theirs. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Cole family. The celebration afterward was small but joyful. They went to a restaurant Lily loved. Nothing fancy, just good food and warm atmosphere, and Mrs. Chen's cake was elaborately decorated with flowers and turned out to be chocolate, Lily's favorite. Sarah's photos captured everything, the joy, the tears, the sense of rightness that permeated the day. But beneath it all was the knowledge that this was only the beginning. The evaluation with the psychologist was scheduled for next week. The legal battle with Amanda was far from over. Adrienne's family still needed to be dealt with eventually. They were married now, yes. They were legally a family, but the fight to stay that way had just begun. That night, after Lily had fallen asleep wearing her new ring and a smile, Ethan and Adrienne sat in the quiet living room of what was now officially their shared home. "We did it," Adrienne said softly. "We did. How do you feel?" Married, terrified, hopeful, all of it at once. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "That thing you said to Lily about how the paper matters. She's right. It does matter. But what matters more is what we promised in that room. To stay, to fight, to choose each other every day. Even when it's hard? Especially when it's hard." She looked up at him. "Amanda might get visitation. Your ex-wife might end up being part of our lives in some capacity. My parents might never come around. There are going to be hard days ahead." "I know. But we'll face them together, as a family. That's what today was about. Not just the wedding, but the promise we made to Lily and to each other. We stay." Ethan kissed her forehead. "We stay." Monday morning brought them back to reality. The psychologist's office called to confirm Lily's appointment for Wednesday afternoon. Patricia called with updates on Amanda's lawyer's latest communications. And Adrienne's mother left another voicemail, this one requesting they meet to discuss the situation. "We can't avoid them forever," Adrienne said, listening to the message. "Do you want to deal with them now? We've got enough going on." "Maybe that's exactly why we should. Get it over with. Show them that we're serious, that we're married, that their approval doesn't matter anymore." "When? This weekend? After the evaluation with the psychologist. Once we know what we're dealing with there, we can face them with a clearer picture of our situation." It was decided. This weekend they'd confront Adrienne's family. But first they had to get through the evaluation, the session that would potentially determine whether Amanda got access to Lily or not. Wednesday afternoon, they drove Lily to the psychologist's office in tense silence. Dr. Rebecca Walsh specialized in child psychology and family dynamics, and her office was designed to be welcoming, soft colors, comfortable furniture, toys, and books scattered around. "I'm going to talk with Lily alone for about 45 minutes, Dr. Walsh explained to Ethan and Adrienne. "Then I'll bring you back in and we can discuss next steps. Lily, is it okay if we chat for a bit? Just the two of us?" Lily looked at Ethan and Adrienne, seeking reassurance. "It's okay," Adrienne said gently. "We'll be right outside. You just answer her questions honestly." Lily nodded and followed Dr. Walsh into the inner office. Ethan and Adrienne were left in the waiting room, trying not to imagine what was being said behind that closed door. "What if she asks the wrong questions?" Adrienne worried. "What if Lily says something that makes it seem like she should see Amanda? Then we deal with it. But Lily knows how she feels. She knows who her family is." 45 minutes felt like 45 hours. When the door finally opened and Dr. Walsh invited them back in, Lily was sitting on a beanbag chair looking tired but calm. "Thank you for your patience," Dr. Walsh said. "I've had a good conversation with Lily, and I have a preliminary assessment, though I'll need to prepare a full written report for the mediator." What did she say? Ethan asked. First, let me say that Lily is a remarkably well-adjusted child. She's articulate about her feelings. She has a clear sense of security in her home environment, and she's formed a strong attachment to both of you. Dr. Walsh looked at Adrienne. She talks about you as her mother, not her stepmother, not her dad's wife, her mom. Adrienne's eyes filled with tears. As for Ms. Brennan, Dr. Walsh continued, Lily was very clear about her feelings. She doesn't remember her. She doesn't have any attachment to her. And the idea of being forced to spend time with someone she considers a stranger causes her significant anxiety. So you'll recommend against visitation? Ethan asked hopefully. Not exactly. I'll recommend that any visitation be structured very carefully, with Lily's comfort as the primary concern, starting with very brief, highly supervised meetings in neutral locations. No overnight visits, no extended time periods. And most importantly, Lily should have veto power. If she's uncomfortable, the visit ends. It wasn't everything they wanted, but it was better than they'd feared. How did Amanda take that news? Adrienne asked. I haven't spoken with Ms. Brennan yet. That's scheduled for tomorrow. But I'll be recommending the same approach to her, that this needs to be about building trust slowly, not asserting parental rights. After they left the office, with the report promised for the following week, they took Lily for ice cream and let her pick out a new book at her favorite store. She deserved something good after being put through that emotional ringer. That night, tucking her into bed, Lily asked the question that had clearly been on her mind all day. The doctor said, I don't have to see Amanda if I don't want to. Is that really true? It's true, Ethan confirmed. If you're uncomfortable, we stop. That's a promise. But what if Amanda's sad? What if she really wants to know me? Ethan's heart ached at her empathy. Even after everything, Lily was worried about hurting someone else's feelings. Amanda's feelings aren't your responsibility, Adrienne said gently. You get to decide who you want in your life, and whatever you decide, we support you. What if I just want things to stay the same, with just us? Then that's what we'll fight for. Lily seemed satisfied with that answer. She settled into sleep holding both their hands, and Ethan and Adrienne stayed there until her breathing evened out. She just wants us, Adrienne whispered in the hallway afterward. That's all she's ever wanted. Stability, family, people who stay. And that's what we'll give her, no matter what anyone else wants. Friday brought the written report from Dr. Walsh. Patricia called them immediately after receiving it. This is good for us, she said. Doctor, Walsh was very clear that Lily's emotional well-being should be the priority, and that forcing contact against her will could cause harm. She's recommending supervised visitation in 1-hour increments, no more than twice a month, with strict parameters. Amanda's lawyer isn't happy, but they'd be hard-pressed to get a judge to overrule a psychologist's recommendations. So we're looking at minimal contact? Ethan asked. Very minimal, and you get to be present for all of it. This isn't Amanda getting parental access. This is her being allowed to try to build a relationship with your oversight. It was the best outcome they could have hoped for. Now they just had to see if Amanda would accept it, or if she'd push for more and drag them all to court. But first, they had another battle to face. Saturday morning, they drove back to the North Shore for the meeting with Adrienne's parents that no one wanted but everyone knew was necessary. This time, they left Lily with Mrs. Chen. There was no reason to subject her to another confrontation with people who'd already proven they couldn't see past their own prejudices. This meeting was about setting boundaries, not seeking approval. The drive felt different from last time. They weren't walking in as supplicants hoping for acceptance. They were walking in as a married couple, a unified front, prepared to draw hard lines if necessary. Whatever happens in there, Adrienne said as they pulled into the driveway, we leave together. If they can't be respectful, we walk out. Agreed? Agreed. Victoria answered the door herself this time, and Ethan noticed the careful way she studied them, looking for cracks, perhaps, or signs that the marriage had been a mistake. Adrienne? Ethan, please come in. The house felt colder than before, though that might have been Ethan's imagination. Jonathan was waiting in the living room, standing by the fireplace like he was posing for a portrait. Claire sat on the sofa, her expression guarded. Marcus stood near the window, and when he saw them, he offered a small, encouraging nod. Thank you for coming, Jonathan said formally. Please, sit. Adrienne remained standing. Before we sit down, I need to say something. We're here because you asked for a meeting, not because we need your blessing or approval. Ethan and I got married last Saturday. We're a family now, me, him, and Lily. That's not going to change regardless of what happens in this room. So if this is another intervention about my choices, we can leave right now. Victoria's lips pressed into a thin line. We simply want to talk, to understand. Then talk. We're listening. There was a long, uncomfortable silence. Finally, Jonathan spoke. We were harsh at the last dinner, particularly toward the child. That was wrong. It wasn't quite an apology, but it was closer than Ethan expected. Her name is Lily, Adrian said quietly. Not the child. Lily. And yes, you were harsh. You made her feel like she was unwanted, like her existence was an inconvenience. She's 7 years old. She didn't deserve that. We reacted poorly, Victoria admitted, though the words seemed to pain her. We were surprised. You'd been so secretive about your relationship, and then you appeared with a fully formed family. It was jarring. I was secretive because I knew you'd react exactly the way you did, Adrian said. Because I've spent my entire life watching you judge people based on their pedigree instead of their character. I knew you'd find fault with Ethan because he's not from your world, and you'd find fault with Lily because she comes with complications. That's not fair, Claire started. Isn't it? Adrienne turned to her sister. You called her someone else's obligation. You implied that Ethan was taking advantage of me. You reduced my relationship to a series of deficiencies instead of seeing it for what it actually is. The best thing that's ever happened to me. Claire looked away, at least having the grace to appear uncomfortable. Marcus cleared his throat. For what it's worth, I think you two make sense together. I met Ethan at the wedding, talked to him while you were getting photos with Lily. He's solid. He cares about you. And watching you with that little girl, I've never seen you that happy, Adrienne. Thank you, Adrienne said, her voice softening slightly. That means a lot. We're not trying to stand in the way of your happiness, Jonathan said carefully. We're trying to protect you. Marriage is complicated enough without adding a child from a previous relationship into the mix. We worry about what happens if things don't work out. What happens is the same thing that happens in any divorce, Ethan said, speaking up for the first time. People get hurt, arrangements are made, life goes on, but we're not planning for failure. We're building for success. And if the child's biological mother returns, Victoria asked, we understand she's seeking visitation. That's a complication that could destroy even the strongest relationship. Amanda is part of our reality now, Adrienne said, but she doesn't define us. We're handling it together, as partners. That's what marriage is, facing challenges together instead of running from them. You've been married for a week, Claire pointed out. You don't know yet what challenges will come. We know enough, Ethan said. We know that when Adrienne's family insulted my daughter, she walked out with us. We know that when my ex-wife resurfaced, Adrienne stood beside me through mediation and psychological evaluations. We know that when things get difficult, we choose each other. That's more than a lot of couples know after years. Victoria studied them for a long moment. You really believe this will work? We do, Adrienne said simply, because we're not basing it on fantasy. We're basing it on mutual respect, shared values, and the conscious decision to build a family together. That's stronger than romance or passion, or any of the things you think should matter more. But Jonathan moved to sit in his leather armchair, suddenly looking older. When you were diagnosed, when we learned you couldn't have children, your mother and I thought we'd lost the chance to see you become a parent. We grieved that. Perhaps we've been unable to see past our own disappointment to recognize that you found another path to parenthood. It was the closest to vulnerability Ethan had heard from the man. I understand that, Adrienne said, her voice gentler now. And I grieved it too, but I'm not grieving anymore. Lily is my daughter, maybe not biologically, but in every other way. She calls me mom. She includes me in her projects at school. She wants me at her soccer games and her bedtime and her everyday life. That's real parenthood, Dad. That's what I always wanted. But you've known her for months, not years, Victoria protested. How can you be sure this attachment will last? Because I chose it, Adrienne said firmly. I'm not attached to Lily by accident or biology. I'm attached to her because I made a conscious decision to be her mother. And that kind of choice, that deliberate commitment, is more reliable than anything else. Marcus spoke up again. Mom, Dad, I think we need to accept that this is happening whether we approve or not. The question isn't whether Adrian should have married Ethan or taken on Lily as her daughter. The question is whether we're going to be part of their lives or not. Of course we want to be part of her life, Victoria said immediately. Then you need to accept all of us, Adrian said. Not just me in isolation. Ethan is my husband. Lily is my daughter. We're a package deal. If you can't respect that, if you can't treat them with the same courtesy you'd show anyone else I brought into this family, then we have a problem. What are you saying? Jonathan asked quietly. I'm saying I need you to decide right now. Either you accept my family, all of us, or you don't. And if you don't, then we'll have limited contact going forward. I won't subject Lily to more judgment. I won't put Ethan in situations where he's made to feel inferior. And I won't compromise the life we're building to maintain a relationship with people who can't see its value. The ultimatum hung in the air. Ethan held his breath, wondering if Adrienne had just severed ties with her family permanently. Victoria and Jonathan exchanged a long look, one of those wordless conversations that only couples married for decades could have. Finally, Victoria spoke. We would like to meet Lily properly. Without the tension of the first dinner, perhaps we could take the three of you to lunch. Something casual where we can actually get to know her without all the formality. It wasn't everything, but it was something. Adrienne looked at Ethan, silently asking his opinion. He gave a tiny nod. We could do that, Adrienne said carefully. But there are ground rules. No comments about her background or her mother's absence. No implications that she's lucky to have me or that this is charity. You treat her like you'd treat any other grandchild, with respect and genuine interest in who she is. Grandchild? Victoria repeated, something shifting in her expression. What else would she be? Adrienne asked. She's my daughter. That makes her your granddaughter. Unless you don't want that relationship? No, Victoria's voice wavered slightly. We would like that, very much. The admission seemed to cost her something, but it was genuine. Then we'll arrange lunch, Adrienne said. But Ethan and I will be monitoring closely. If Lily seems uncomfortable or if there are any issues, we leave. Non-negotiable. Understood, Jonathan said. Claire had been quiet through most of this exchange. Now she spoke up, her voice subdued. I owe you an apology. Both of you, but especially Lily. What I said at dinner about her being someone else's obligation, that was cruel. I was defending Mom and Dad without thinking about the impact on a child who was right there hearing it all. Yes, it was cruel, Adrienne agreed. And you're right, she heard every word. She cried herself to sleep that night, convinced she was the reason people leave. Claire flinched. I didn't mean... Intentions don't matter when the damage is done. What matters is whether you're willing to do better going forward. I am. I want to try. They talked for another hour, working through logistics and expectations. It was uncomfortable and sometimes tense, but it was honest. By the time Ethan and Adrienne left, they'd scheduled a lunch for the following Saturday and established some basic ground rules for how the Vale family would interact with Lily. In the car, Adrienne exhaled shakily. I can't believe I just gave my parents an ultimatum. You were amazing, Ethan said. Watching you stand up for Lily like that, I've never been more sure that marrying you was the right choice. They might backslide. This might not last. Maybe, but at least we've drawn the line. They know where we stand. The following week brought another mediation session with Amanda. Dr. Walsh's report had been submitted, and the recommendations were clear. Limited, supervised visitation only, contingent on Lily's comfort level and willingness to participate. Amanda's lawyer had tried to push back, but Sandra Martinez held firm. Ms. Brennan, I understand you want a relationship with your daughter, but after 3 years of absence, that relationship needs to be rebuilt from scratch. Doctor. Walsh has made it clear that forcing contact against Lily's will could cause psychological harm. Are you willing to accept supervised visitation as a starting point? Amanda looked smaller than she had at the first mediation, less certain, less polished. How supervised are we talking? Mr. Cole or Miss Cole will be present for all visits, Patricia explained. Visits will take place in a neutral public location, a park, a cafe, somewhere Lily feels safe. They'll start at 30 minutes and can be extended if Lily is comfortable. No gifts without prior approval, no making promises about future contact, no attempts to undermine her relationship with her parents. Her parents, Amanda repeated bitterly. You mean her father and a woman she's known for 6 months? I mean the people who have been raising her, providing stability, and meeting her emotional needs, Patricia corrected sharply. The people she identifies as her family. Ethan watched Amanda struggle with this reality. Part of him felt sympathy. She'd made a terrible mistake and was now living with the consequences. But a larger part of him felt only protective anger. She'd had 3 years to change her mind, 3 years to seek help, and come back. She'd waited until Lily was settled and happy to suddenly decide she wanted to be a mother. I'll accept the supervised visits, Amanda said finally, but I want it on record that this isn't what I consider adequate access to my daughter. Noted, Sandra said, but this is what's best for Lily right now. As Dr. Walsh indicated, if these initial visits go well and Lily becomes more comfortable, we can revisit the arrangement in 6 months, but that's contingent on respecting the boundaries and prioritizing her emotional well-being. The first visit was scheduled for 2 weeks out, a Saturday morning at a park near Ethan and Adrienne's apartment. 30 minutes with both of them present, and Lily could end it at any time if she felt uncomfortable. When they told Lily about the arrangement, she was quiet for a long time. Do I have to call her Mom? She asked finally. Absolutely not, Adrienne said. You call her Amanda or Ms. Brennan or nothing at all if you prefer. She's not your mom. I am. What if she's nice? What if I like her? Then that's okay too, Ethan said gently. Liking her doesn't mean you have to have a relationship with her if you don't want one. And it definitely doesn't change anything about our family. Will she ask me to come live with her? No, that's not on the table and never will be. You live with us, period. Lily seemed reassured, but Ethan could see the anxiety still lurking in her eyes. This was going to be hard for her, no matter how carefully they managed it. The scheduled lunch with Adrienne's parents came first, the Saturday before the Amanda visit. They met at a family-friendly restaurant, Victoria's Choice, but approved by Adrienne as neutral territory. Lily was nervous during the drive, twisting her new ring around her finger. What if they don't like me? She asked. Then that's their problem, not yours, Adrienne said. But I think they're going to love you. Just be yourself, okay? That's all anyone can ask. Victoria and Jonathan were already seated when they arrived, and Ethan noted that Victoria had dressed down, still elegant, but less intimidating than before. Jonathan stood when they approached, his posture formal, but his smile genuine. Lily, he said, it's good to see you again. I hope we can start fresh today. Okay, Lily said shyly. They ordered food. Lily got chicken fingers and was relieved to discover that Jonathan also ordered them, which broke some of the ice. Victoria asked gentle questions about school, about soccer, about Lily's favorite subjects. She didn't push when Lily's answers were brief, didn't try to force connection. Your grandmother tells me you're quite good at science, Jonathan said during the meal. I'm a surgeon, so I'm rather partial to science myself. What aspect interests you most? Space, Lily said, warming up slightly. I want to learn about black holes and how rockets work and whether there's life on other planets. Fascinating topics. Have you been to the planetarium downtown? Once with Dad and Adrienne. It was amazing. Perhaps we could take you again sometime, Victoria offered carefully. If that's something you'd enjoy. Lily looked at Ethan and Adrienne for permission. Could we? If you want to, Adrienne said. I think I'd like that. It wasn't perfect. There were awkward moments and stilted conversation. But Victoria and Jonathan were trying, genuinely trying to connect with Lily on her terms rather than imposing their expectations. When dessert came and Lily accidentally dropped her fork, splattering ice cream on the table, Victoria laughed instead of criticizing. Goodness, I've done that more times than I can count, she said, helping clean up. Ice cream is treacherous that way. By the end of the meal, Lily was chattering more freely, telling Jonathan about her science fair project and showing Victoria a drawing she'd brought in her backpack. May I keep this? Victoria asked, studying the drawing, a colorful depiction of their family with careful labels. Dad, Adrienne Mom, and me. If you want, Lily said. I very much want. I'll put it on my refrigerator at home. As they walked to the parking lot, Jonathan pulled Ethan aside while Adrienne and Lily were talking to Victoria. She's a wonderful child, he said quietly. Bright, curious, kind. You've done well with her. Thank you. And Adrian, she's different with you. Happier. More at peace than I've seen her in years. Jonathan paused. I'm sorry for my initial reaction. I was protecting my daughter from what I perceived as a risk, but I failed to see what she was actually gaining. I appreciate that. We'd like to be part of your lives. Part of Lily's life, if you'll allow it. Ethan considered him. This man who'd been so cold at the first dinner, now standing in a parking lot asking for a second chance. We can try, he said finally, but Lily's well-being comes first, always. As it should. I wouldn't expect anything less. That evening, Lily couldn't stop talking about the lunch. Did you see? Your mom put my drawing on her phone right there at the table. And your dad knew all about rockets, and he said maybe he could take me to his hospital sometime and show me the equipment. They're your grandparents now too, Adrian reminded her gently. You can call them Grandma Victoria and Grandpa Jonathan if you want. Really? Really, they're part of our family. Lily considered this. Okay, but I'm going to wait and see if they keep being nice first. Smart kid, Ethan said, ruffling her hair. The following Saturday brought the meeting they'd all been dreading. The park was busy with weekend activity, families playing, dogs chasing balls, the normal chaos of a spring morning. They arrived 15 minutes early to let Lily get comfortable with the environment. Remember, Adrian said, kneeling down to Lily's level, if you want to leave at any time, you just say the word. We'll end it immediately. No questions, no guilt. Okay? Okay. And nothing she says changes anything about us. You're my daughter. That's not negotiable. Lily nodded, but Ethan could see her hands trembling. Amanda arrived exactly on time, and Ethan's first thought was that she looked nervous. She dressed casually, jeans and a sweater, and she carried no gifts or bags, respecting the rules they'd established. Hi, she said quietly. Lily, I'm Amanda. I'm your biological mother, but I understand you don't remember me. Lily pressed closer to Adrienne. No. That's okay. That's totally okay. Amanda looked lost, like she hadn't actually prepared for how to talk to a child who was a stranger to her. Maybe we could sit? Just talk for a bit? They found a bench near a playground where Lily could keep one eye on the other kids playing. Amanda sat on one end, Lily in the middle with Adrienne and Ethan on the other end, a physical buffer. So, Amanda began awkwardly, you're 7 now. That's a big kid. Do you like school? Yes? What's your favorite subject? Science. The conversation was painful to watch. Stilted questions met with monosyllabic answers. Lily wasn't being deliberately difficult. She simply had nothing to say to this stranger who claimed a connection she didn't feel. After about 15 minutes, Amanda tried a different approach. I know this is weird for you. It's weird for me too. I made a really big mistake 3 years ago when I left. I was sick. In my head, not my body. And I thought leaving was the right thing to do. But it wasn't. I missed out on knowing you. Lily looked at her curiously. Were you sad? Very sad. The saddest I've ever been. But I'm better now, and I wanted to try to, try to be part of your life, maybe, if you want that. I already have a mom, Lily said, her hand finding Adrienne's. And a dad. And grandparents now. I don't really have room for more. The honesty was brutal, but it was fair. Amanda's face crumpled slightly. I understand, but maybe we could be friends? I'm not trying to replace anyone. I'd like to know you, know what you like, what you're interested in. Would that be okay? Lily considered this. I guess we could try. But if I don't like it, I can stop, right? Absolutely. Anytime you want. They spent another 10 minutes talking, mostly about Lily's interests, her soccer team, her science project. Amanda listened attentively, asking follow-up questions that showed genuine interest. It wasn't motherly exactly, but it was kind. When the 30 minutes were up, Lily looked relieved. Can we go now? Of course, Ethan said. Amanda stood as well. Thank you for giving me this chance, Lily. And thank you both, she said to Ethan and Adrienne, for not making this harder than it had to be. This was for Lily, Adrienne said coolly. Not for you. Don't forget that. I won't. As they walked back to the car, Lily was quiet. Finally, she spoke. She seems sad. She probably is, Ethan said. But that's not my fault, right? I didn't make her leave. No, baby, that was never your fault. Not ever. Okay, good, Lily thought for a moment. I don't think I want to see her again for a while. Is that okay? That's completely okay, Adrienne assured her. We'll tell the mediator you need a break. You're in control of this. Good, because I have enough family now. I don't need more. The mediator accepted Lily's wishes without argument. Amanda was disappointed but agreed to respect her daughter's boundaries. They left the option open for future contact if Lily ever changed her mind, but there was no pressure, no schedule. It would happen only if and when Lily wanted it. Over the following months, their new family found its rhythm. Victoria and Jonathan became regular presences in Lily's life, taking her to the planetarium as promised, attending her soccer games, hosting family dinners that were warm instead of formal. Claire softened too, sending Lily books she thought she'd enjoy, asking genuine questions about her interests. Marcus became Lily's favorite uncle, showing up with science kits and terrible jokes that made her laugh. His wife Elena taught Lily to bake, and they spent Saturday afternoons making elaborate desserts that never quite turned out like the pictures, but tasted good anyway. Ethan's company promoted him to team lead, which came with a raise that eased their financial stress. Adrienne continued excelling at her job, but she'd also set stricter boundaries about working late. Family dinner was sacred, and she rarely missed it. They moved to a bigger apartment that summer, one with a real yard where Lily could play, and a second bedroom they converted into a home office/art room. Lily decorated her new room herself, purple walls, glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, shelves for her growing collection of science books. The best moment came on a Tuesday evening in October, 6 months after the wedding. They were making dinner together, Ethan chopping vegetables, Adrienne stirring sauce, Lily setting the table. Normal, domestic, unremarkable. Lily was chattering about her day when she casually said, "Mom, can you help me with my math homework after dinner?" Adrienne froze mid-stir. "What did you just call me?" Lily looked up, confused. "Mom, that's what you are." "I know, you've never called me that before, just Adrienne." "Oh," Lily shrugged. "I guess I felt like it was time. Is that okay?" Adrienne set down the spoon and pulled Lily into a fierce hug. "It's more than okay, it's perfect." Ethan watched them, these two people he loved more than anything, and felt something settle completely into place. This was what he'd been searching for that Christmas night in the restaurant. Not romance or passion or the fairy tale version of love. This, the everyday choosing of each other, the deliberate building of family, the conscious decision to show up day after day through good and bad. That night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan and Adrienne sat on their small balcony under the stars. "She called me Mom," Adrienne said again, like she was testing the reality of it. "You are her mom. You have been since the day you walked out of your parents' house with us." "No, I was her mom before that. I just didn't realize it until that moment." She leaned against him. "Do you ever think about how we started? How absolutely insane the whole thing was?" "All the time. A stranger approaching me at my lowest point with an impossible proposal. And you being crazy enough to consider it. Best decision I ever made. Well, second best. First was agreeing to marry you." Adrienne laughed. "We did things backward, didn't we? Got engaged before we really fell in love, built a family before we built a relationship." "Maybe. But it worked. We're here, aren't we? Happy, stable, together?" "We are." She was quiet for a moment. "Amanda called last week. Her wedding is next month. She wanted to let us know in case Lily hears about it somehow." "How do you feel about that?" "Honestly, I feel nothing. She's part of Lily's past, but she's not part of our present. If Lily ever wants to reach out, we'll support that. But I'm not worried about her anymore. She's not a threat to what we've built." "No," Ethan agreed. "She's not." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights twinkle below them. Inside, their daughter, their chosen daughter, their perfect daughter, slept peacefully, secure in the knowledge that she was loved and wanted and safe. It hadn't been a conventional path to family. It hadn't been easy, but it had been real, built on honesty and mutual respect and the deliberate choice to show up for each other every single day. That Christmas, almost exactly a year after Ethan's disastrous date at the restaurant, they hosted their first family celebration. Victoria and Jonathan came, bringing gifts and warm wishes. Marcus and Elena showed up with their new baby, who Lily was fascinated by. Claire came alone. Her own marriage had ended, but she seemed lighter without it, more herself. Mrs. Chen was there too, honorary grandmother, wearing a ridiculous Christmas sweater and sneaking Lily extra cookies. Some of Ethan's colleagues came, along with a few of Adrian's friends from work. The apartment was too small for everyone, too loud, too chaotic. It was absolutely perfect. After everyone had left and Lily had finally crashed on the couch, still in her party dress, Ethan found Adrian in the kitchen washing dishes. "Leave them," he said. "Come sit with me." They settled on the couch beside their sleeping daughter, and Ethan pulled out his phone. "I want to show you something." He scrolled back to a photo from a year ago, him sitting alone at a restaurant table, looking dejected and lost. He'd taken it himself in a moment of dark humor, proof of another failed attempt at moving forward. Then he showed her a photo from earlier that evening, the three of them together, Lily between them, all of them laughing at something Marcus had said. The difference was staggering. "You saved me," Ethan said quietly. "You saved both of us." "You saved me too," Adrian countered. "I was so lost in trying to meet everyone else's expectations that I forgot to figure out what I actually wanted. You and Lily reminded me." "What did we remind you?" "That family is what you make it. That love is a choice, not just a feeling. That sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places." Lily stirred between them, mumbling something about robots in her sleep. They both smiled. "Should we move her to bed?" Adrian asked. "In a minute. I want to stay like this a bit longer." So they sat there in the quiet apartment, surrounded by the debris of celebration, their daughter sleeping between them. Outside, snow had started to fall, the first of the season, turning the city soft and white. A year ago, Ethan had been alone at a restaurant, watching another woman walk away, convinced he'd never find someone who could accept both him and Lily as a package deal. A year ago, Adrienne had been sitting 3 tables over, alone on Christmas, wondering if she'd ever have the family she'd always wanted, and now here they were. Not perfect, not without scars, but whole. A family built not on biology or convention, but on choice, on showing up, on the daily decision to love each other through the easy moments and the hard ones. Lily shifted again, and this time she woke up enough to realize where she was. "Did I fall asleep?" "You did," Ethan confirmed. "Party was too exciting." She yawned, then noticed the snow outside. "It's snowing!" "First snow of the year," Adrian said. Lily scrambled to the window, pressing her face against the glass. "Can we go outside just for a minute?" Ethan and Adrian exchanged glances. They should say no. It was late. Lily should be in bed. They were all exhausted from the party. "Yes," they said together. So they bundled up and went outside into the quiet street, just the 3 of them. Lily ran ahead, catching snowflakes on her tongue, leaving small footprints in the fresh powder. Ethan and Adrian walked hand in hand, watching her. "This is it, isn't it?" Adrian said. "This is everything." "Yeah, this is everything." Lily ran back to them, her cheeks red from cold, her eyes bright with joy. "Can we make snow angels?" "The snow's not deep enough yet," Ethan said. "Then can we just stand here and watch it fall?" So they did. They stood in the middle of their street, watching snow transform their ordinary neighborhood into something magical, and they were together. Not despite their complicated beginning, but because of it. Because they'd been brave enough to try something different. Because they'd chosen each other when the world said they shouldn't. Because sometimes the best families aren't born, they're built. One choice, one day, one moment of courage at a time. And this family, this beautiful, imperfect, deliberately chosen family, had been built to last. Years later, Lily would tell the story to friends, to partners, eventually to her own children. She'd talk about the Christmas when her parents met at a restaurant, a father alone after a bad date, and a woman with a proposal that changed everything. She'd talk about how they built a family, not from blood, but from choice. And she'd always end the story the same way. They chose each other, and every single day after that, they kept choosing. That's what family means. Not where you came from, but who you choose to stay with. But for now, in this moment, they were just 3 people standing in the snow. A father who'd been willing to risk an unconventional path. A mother who'd been brave enough to propose it. And a daughter who'd brought them together and given them both purpose. The snow fell around them, soft and silent, covering everything in white. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new choices, new moments that would test their commitment to each other. But tonight, they had this. They had each other. They had family. And it was more than enough. It was everything.